Yeah, how do we?
Michael Chin is.
I just want to be like.
No, it's Jen's.
Oh, really?
Let me get the.
Going to a wedding with Mr. Tracy.
I just put in.
It's like I've never been. Never been there.
Ready? Okay, Yeah.
Okay, all right.
sure.
Yeah, all right, just.
Okay, Judy, if you do the roll,
Yes,
please.
all right. For meetings order, okay. Judy Neville, Tom Schulte,
Here.
Amy Carroll, Todd Lavieri,
Present.
Michael Chin is out, Chris Labrie,
Here.
Victor Alvarez is out.
Oh,
Mark,
here.
Victor's here, right?
I
Yep.
didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not see you. Okay,
He's that handsome
good.
guy in the lower left.
I
On
know
Zoom.
that now.
This one who puts his video on.
Okay. Maria Weingarten here, Robert Hamill,
Here.
Colin Dobbin,
Here.
James Yao is coming.
Yep.
He is on.
Uh,
Oh,
Yep, I'm on.
all right. So we need a motion to seat Bob for
Somebody
Michael Chin.
That's okay. Yep.
No, and we're good. That's it.
So move.
Okay, so
Second.
second, Chris. So Amy moved seating Bob for Michael. Chris seconded. All in favor? Aye. None? Okay, good. That was a quick, that was none, but. Okay, let's see. One follow-up from Tuesday. The Board of Ed answered our questions back in writing. I don't know if everyone, did those go out on the tablets? Actually, I didn't see them. The answers.
I didn't either.
We need a soft copy. Could we do a follow-up with them? They handed out the answers, but if you weren't here, those that weren't here weren't able to get the answers. Including the answers to the questions? Okay. Okay, well, I think like, so as an example, maybe Tom or someone who wasn't here, if they could just see if they got the answers to their questions. What I'd like everyone to do is to process those. And by Monday or Tuesday, have any follow-up questions to me, and then we'll circle back with them on what those might be. And we'll take it from there. Okay, that was it. We have 3 things tonight. Jen's here for Health and Human Services. I think you two go first. Yep. Josh, you're gonna do general government. And then Lisa is here or will be here for library. Okay, great. Okay, we can get started.
We have a what? Oh, yes. I saw
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
we like that.
Oh, that is good.
That's pretty smooth.
All right.
Thank you for this. Great job.
What? I'm below.
We're just waiting for the
Presentation.
presentation to share. You got it. I think it's a little small for some people, not
For me.
not for me. I can
This is all right.
Superman.
Are you?
Okay, so I'm Jen Eilson, Director of Health for New Canaan Health Department. So the mission of the Health Department is to control preventable diseases through education, inspections, and monitoring by enforcing the federal, state, and local codes, laws, and regulations for maintaining and promoting public health. The Connecticut general statutes have a basic health services that every health department in Connecticut is responsible for. The state of Connecticut has adopted the national NACCHO Public Health 10 Essential Services. So that forms the crux and the structure of everything that public health is based around. Some health department responsibilities. We were the lead agency, obviously, in COVID with testing and vaccines. We are responsible for carrying out and enforcing all aspects of the Connecticut Public Health Code and Connecticut general statutes pertaining to public health. We license and inspect all food service establishments, daycare, salons, public pools, septic and refuse trucks, private wells, lead inspections, and septic inspections. We review all building permits for properties on septic systems and or private well. We provide case management of all New Canaan children found to have an elevated blood lead level of 3.5 micrograms per deciliter or greater. We manage infectious diseases such as COVID, tuberculosis, Campylobacter, pertussis, norovirus, foodborne illnesses. We respond to and investigate various complaints from landlord tenant disputes about rodent vector concerns and general housing complaints. We provide written comments for review of all P and Z and Inland Wetland Commission applications for properties on septic and for commercial properties licensed regulated by the Health Department. Some changes this past year. We hired 3 public health part-time nurses through the ELC2 grant. All 3 of the nurses live in New Canaan, so it's great. They're very flexible with their schedules, which I love. So we can provide more at night and off hour vaccinations or testing or whatever they need. My registered sanitarian, Chris, left for a position in Reading for a 4-day work week and a shorter commute. So after that, I hired Gino, registered sanitarian from town of Ridgefield. And we actually got lucky because there's such a shortage of sanitarians right now in Connecticut. I was glad to be able to steal him from Ridgefield from my old boss. So he's very thrilled with me right now.
Jen, what is a sanitarian?
It's the term for, we have to get an RS license, a registered sanitarian license, but you can't get it until you work in the field for at least 2 years. And it's a 5-hour exam. You have to have a bachelor's of science degree and X amount of coursework in the sciences. And then we also have to get septic phase 1, phase 2, food certified, lead, pool, FEMA. There's around 20 different certifications that we have to get, which is part of why the younger group is really not jumping into the field. And they're coming out of college, with nothing. So towns have to spend years to train somebody.
Thank you.
So registered sanitarian is a level of attainment. It's not a position.
Yeah, well, that's their title, but it is their licensure. And by statute, you need a registered sanitarian for every 10,000 residents. So
We have to.
it's me and Gino.
I see, okay.
So, which is a problem elsewhere in the state because
Yeah.
there isn't people to hire.
Licensed people, yeah.
Wow.
We re-enrolled in the Connecticut vaccine program. Those vaccines are free, provided from the state health department from a CDC grant. We received the ELC2 grant, like I said. Last May, they passed an unfunded mandate, Public Act 21-46. That requires local health departments to provide QPR training, question, persuade, and refer suicide prevention training. So in order to do that, there are 2 courses we have to take. So it's a trainer of a trainer certification course and then another course. Shannon and I took the first course. We still have to take the second course, and then we can start providing the QPR training. But with that, with the unfunded mandate comes, you have to buy the books, you have to buy, all the
Sure.
stuff to provide the training. So, as usual, when pen goes to paper, they forget that things cost money, and the local health is a little busy right now, And the governor's bill, another act that was passed last year was the lead legislation that lowered the actionable levels. We had talked about this last budget season, but we were promised ARPA funding from the governor, and that hasn't come to fruition. This went into effect last month, January 1st, and I've already gotten 7 cases in 1 month, and 3 of which are requiring full-blown abatement, which, you had to do notice of violations, you had to do the inspections, you had to do the follow-up, and then the abatement plans. I mean, it's a lot. And there's no timetable of when we're going to get funding to help us hire part-time, staff to handle it or whatever. They haven't figured out the formula is what we keep hearing. So
So there are 6 kids that were exposed to lead poisoning.
there's 7 in January alone that are at the 3.5 or above.
Wow.
This is due to old lead paint or?
Yeah, and a lot of it is, people don't realize just because you have multiple layers of latex paint over it, all it takes is one, hole, and then the dust is so fine and kids put their hands in their mouth all the time.
Mm.
So that's part of the issue. But luckily, all the pediatricians in New Canaan, I have a great relationship with. So I work with them directly. They'll let me know before I even get the state case, so I can talk to parents through the process. This is more about the lead changes. And I just put some Data Haven data in there that New Canaan has 2,833 households living in structures built prior to 1960. Lead wasn't banned until 1978. But of that number, we don't know how many have been renovated, how many have a children under 6 in residence, because the lead law only pertains to children under 6 in residence, not adults, because they assume adults aren't putting their hands in their mouth and
Eating paint.
things like that. But, this is just the cases. As you see, we did not have, thankfully, the winter spike that we had in prior years. The last time we had a really big spike was last May. So hopefully it kind of stays that way.
This is an interesting chart. Okay.
Inspection data. This is just of everything that we inspect and permit. The one thing that is going to change that we got notified today by the state, another change. They have adopted the FDA food code, and it goes into effect next Thursday when the Secretary of State posts it on the website. The problem with that is we don't have the inspection forms. We don't have, nobody's ready for it, and it changes the inspection schedule. So now you used to have a score. If you were 80 or above with no 4-pointer, you're good. We don't come back to you for 3 months. Now it's depending on what the violation is. You have to come back 48 hours, 72 hours, 96. So it just adds more, again, work. And we just found out today, and they're supposed to give us training next Thursday on the process. We already had to take 45 online certification courses for the FDA food code. So that, again, tells you the amount of endless trainings we have to take.
I have a question. So if somebody gets geothermal in New Canaan, do they have to get a well permit from you?
Yes, they do. And we
And
have to approve the location in relation to the septic system and their drinking water well. And if they're on sewer and they do geothermal, there's still separation distances to the sewer lateral.
And is it happening often? I mean, are you getting more than like 10 households a year getting?
Oh, yeah. I'll show you at the end with the revenue. We're already at the well permit level of last year, and it's because of all geothermals, because of what's going on with the energy. Everybody's beginning, especially these 10,000 square foot houses, it's smart
So
to do
they're adding
geothermal.
wells and they're already on sewer lines. Can
Well,
they just-
geothermals for the heating and cooling, it
Yeah,
uses
but-
the ground for the temperature.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have switched to that as a more efficient way to heat and cool your house.
So it's not about.
It is about you have to have water to pump through the
Mhm.
system.
But you don't.
There's a
have enough-
closed loop or an open loop system. The
Yep.
open loop is messy. The closed loop just keeps going.
Makes sense.
But you'd have to have a well.
PCR testing, we're still doing it with Progressive Diagnostics. Here are the numbers we have, and by age. We did move it from Irwin, so we're now doing it at Vine. We are going to move the vaccine clinics as of March 1st to Vine too, and just get everything under one building. It's too much to keep going back and forth and keep stuff up there. And now that everything is much lower, it's very easy to just do it out of Vine. Here's rapid testing numbers, which again, we're doing out of Vine. Vaccination update of just, the percentages, number of doses we've done. We still hold Thursday clinics. We still do the kids age 6 months to age 5 on Wednesdays, and then work around whatever people need.
You getting much traffic?
Yeah, mostly now it's been, flu or the little kids, the babies, because now a lot of parents are
The rest.
doing the little ones, where everybody else is kind of on 3, 4 Well, I don't even know what number we're on anymore. with the doses. Flu vaccines, we've administered 725 to date. That's another thing that we get for free from the state. We also did a big clinic in the fall for the high school, for the public school staff. And we saved them quite a bit of money by doing it there with our free doses. There's no limit to what I can order from the state. They just ask you not to hoard and waste it. And the great thing about flu is they come single dose. So it's not like COVID where you open a vial and you're wasting 10 doses. Here we can really work around whatever anybody needs for scheduling. And as I said before, we re-enrolled in the Connecticut vaccine immunization program. Homebound, since last January, we've done 507 homebound. We also do mobile clinics at Waveney Inn, Waveney Life Care, Silver Hill, town apartments, first responders, the public schools, ABC House, and the private schools. This, for budget, you'll see an increase in the part-time budget. And the part-time, before I used to have Dr. Reed as half of it was grant funded. They changed that grant now and you can no longer use it for your medical director. So, and his salary is 25,000 of that. So I increased it a little just so I had be able to have some clerical support when we need it. I cut the overtime by 5,000, trying to make up for it because I know your guidance was 2 whatever, but with my little budget, any little increase, there's no way for me to get to.
Jen, safety
okay.
is always in the budget.
It's
You got it.
I didn't want to get in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Believe me, this is amazing. Can I just ask you 2 questions on this? It looks like it's all salary that is the year-over-year increase, right? It's must be the nurses.
No, it's actually bringing in Gino. It came at a higher rate because now they're in such demand.
So that's one.
The
okay.
salaries changed drastically, and then losing the grant for Dr. Reed's.
Okay.
Are
I don't think this, Josh, this fiscal year 23 year to date can't be right. I don't know what that is. Well, it's 57 on 400. It's more than a couple months, I would think. But in the book, it says 150,000. I think that's probably a lot closer. I'm looking at this page. Yeah. Okay. Are you running below your budget for this year? Or this
No.
would suggest you're below budget on
No.
salary.
Definitely not running below budget,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Because the book has 150 against 400 and that's not even half and we're past half. Forget that. Forget that. That's wrong. Whatever you're looking at that page, it doesn't look in the book. My book says 150.
Mine says 150.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, well, then let's find out what it is. So anyway, you don't think you're running behind. Is this, because I was gonna say, that's shocking to me that you could be that far behind.
Oh,
because
no.
It doesn't add
Oh,
up.
no.
Okay, got it. All right.
And then I also cut from the voice data because we were not getting anywhere near that 4,000. So
Okay.
that was a safe bet,
Okay.
but pretty much everything else is,
So this gets you what you need.
yeah.
Okay,
We
all
went
right. I mean, that's
through this.
important.
It's
And
good.
you're able to
Yeah.
find the staff.
Yeah,
A
because
little luck because you have New Canaan residents.
Well,
That's a good thing.
And because I get a lot of grants that I've gotten over here, and we actually have more grants pending. Luckily, now I have Greg's and I don't have to write them, but
Okay,
there's going to be an immunization grant, there's going to be a workforce development grant, and then there's going to be something with the lead.
okay.
And all of those are just going to be based on either population size or whatever. They're not a competitive grant. You're just going to get X amount of money.
Right.
We just don't know what the strings attached are or when that will happen.
And do you, again, just on this, was I going to ask you? Oh, the unfunded mandates, they're in here somewhere. It doesn't, there's no line item that says.
Nope, it's
state.
in professional services.
Okay,
So, because the way, first of all, starting out with the QPR, they only want you doing 10 people at a time. So we've already bought 50 books. That was $600 and something. So, that would get you to at least 5 classes, but I'll have enough out of professional services to stretch it.
okay,
And then
okay.
if I have to move from another line item,
Well,
they'll get
are
creative.
you, okay, are you sure you have, I mean, if it's an unfunded mandate, it is what it is. If you need another $1,000, it's not, you have to tell us.
Well, it would be nice to have.
No, but we need to know. I mean, it's not, don't feel like, you shouldn't have the pressure on you. This is something that came your way with no warning and nothing else. If you need I mean, you have to let us know if there's if it's another $1,000 for the books or whatever it is. Seriously, well, please just figure out.
Have you paid for them yet?
I only did a small little order of 50, but then I have to do this year and all of next year.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
do us a favor, whatever that is, just let them know
Yeah.
and let's make, if you need, again, I don't, you just have to guide us a little in terms of what we're talking about, but it can't be a lot, but it don't feel like you have to look for pennies under the couches for those sorts of things. You
I'm
got,
trying to stick. with
yo,
the
you're great.
budget.
I'm sure it's a great job under the pressure you have. It just like I think we all agree.
Yeah.
For the sake
You
of,
have money in this year's budget for the ones you need right now.
Yeah.
We talked, yeah.
That they
so
can make
that
work,
part
it
is,
sounds like.
yeah, good.
okay.
I have a question about the lead remediation. If you have a pediatrician tell you that a kid had lead poisoning, do you get involved with like going or figuring out whether the household where that kid got poisoned is being remediated, or is that somebody else's responsibility?
Yeah, that's exactly our responsibility. And it depends on what the level is. So like 3.5 to 10, I speak to the parent. I offer them for me to come out and do a lead risk assessment because I'm a licensed lead inspector, risk assessor. So I'll go out, look in their home for any obvious things. I'll ask them, what kind of food they eat, what kind of toys, spices. There's a lot of stuff coming in, especially from China, has a lot of lead, especially in seasonings, because it weighs it down in the bright colors. So,
And it poisons us.
and then depending on, but the problem's becoming the New York pediatricians don't know the Connecticut laws. So we don't get them until it's already in the state database and it's too late. They've already hired a private company. When you hire the private company and they find lead and a child lives under 6, you're triggering 19A 111 general statute. And now you have no choice but to do full-blown abatement. And that's where it really gets crazy, because then we need the abatement plan. Once I approve the abatement plan, then we have to go out, do the dust wipes, we have to do the visual inspection, and it can really drive up the cost on the homeowner when really that wouldn't have happened if they didn't do that inspection. But fortunately, I'm not the author of the codes. I just get to enforce them.
Yeah, because it can be like tens of thousands of dollars to
Oh,
remediate.
Big
lead.
time, because friction surfaces like windows, door jams, all that, you have to completely replace. So it adds up quickly, very, very quickly.
And what if it's like, I've heard of people that kind of look the other way and then they just hire construction people to, change their windows or repaint their windows that are covered in lead. I guess the penalties for that are pretty stiff.
Yeah, so if it's something that's under, that we have found out about, they submit the company submits the inspection report to the state. Then soon as I get it out of Maven, our database, I have 6 different surveillance systems I have to go in every day for various things. So in Maven, when I find that, the first thing I have to do is send a notice of violation. That notice of violation refers to the statute and gives them a timetable to hire an abatement contractor to submit an abatement plan to me. And that's where they go through every single thing of how they're going to abate it. And I have to approve it. Then they go do the work. Then I have to go after that to do the dust wipe clearance and the visual inspection. So it's a lengthy process. And that's why it's, painful.
Does this report go along with the sale of the house? I mean,
Well,
is it
see,
part of
that's it's complicated because some of it is HIPAA protected, because if a child is poisoned and it's for an elevated blood lead level, that can't become public record for obvious reasons. But, the actual abatement can be filed on the land records. but not anything pertaining to the child or the child's, information. So don't buy any old homes if you have children. Okay, capital. We're requesting this year 25,000 for a second vehicle. I've been working with Tiger for the second vehicle. It's gonna be an electric vehicle like the ones he ordered for land use. It's gonna come with a home charger and just be plugged in at Vine, which will be perfect for us. We still have the Crown Vic. We're gonna keep that for Gino. The SUV just finally came in, so I'm happy about
Oh,
that.
okay.
And it came in at 34,000, so 16,000 of that will carry over to be added to this 25 to get the next vehicle.
Yeah, I was
And-
wondering how you're getting it for 25.
Yeah,
Oh,
So
no,
that
no.
helps.
Yeah,
That helps.
that
No.
works.
Remember?
That works.
And then Tiger is gonna, once the second vehicle, he'll dispose of the Crown Vic, however he does it, where you trade it in or auction it, whatever. So that is good news. I'm excited to finally get out of the Stone Age. The big request we have for capital is $100,000 for purchasing of online permitting software. This will streamline relicensing of restaurants, salons, public pools, trucks, septic systems, wells, and plan submissions. This has been I've been here 9 years that this has been trying to become a reality. Back in 2014, when I came here, Steve Kleppen was a town planner at the time. We looked at a Tyler product, so we can talk to Munis, and it was around, $200,000 or so. So we knew that wasn't, viable. A couple of years ago, the building department bought Municity. It was supposed to include a health department and P&Z module that was never delivered, nor does it have an online component. And so we severed that contract with Municity. So right now we're looking at a program called OpenGov. They are in 50 communities in Connecticut already, including Darien and Reading and Ridgefield and Stamford and, Shelton and Trumbull, and they're in 105 communities in Mass and the entire state of Rhode Island. So I've been doing a lot of communication with them. We've been getting some presentations. I presented it to all the other managers for planning and zoning, wetlands, DPW, HR. And then we also been doing site visits. We went up to Ridgefield. I brought all the admins from all the departments so they can meet with the admins up in Ridgefield so they can get comfortable and see what they like and don't like. And then Kathleen and Sarah went to Darien to see how Darien likes it. And so far it's, pretty good. So the online permitting will be for health, DPW engineering, planning and zoning, inland wetlands, and it will connect to the assessor database in our GIS system. The quote will also include the building department. The online permitting will connect to Munis. Not directly, it will go to what they call an FTP file, but that only finance gets, and then they move it over. Because right now, believe it or not, the only way you can get a permit or anything is you have to come in person with a paper check, and that is it. Like we're stuck in 1985. You can't pay by credit card. You cannot do a single thing online. And it's just embarrassing that New Canaan is this far behind. So
So we've never had an automated system.
no,
Well, this is gonna cover not only your department, but.
but it's because it's one contract.
Yeah, So,
And mine is the most hardest because of all the relicensing we do.
so
So I'm leading the project.
this 100,000, is that your share or is?
No, it's all of it.
Oh,
and-
would it get allocated to all the other departments?
No, because it's one contract.
No.
So, and
We could if we cared.
Yeah,
could,
if we
yeah.
wanted to.
But-
And by June 30th, I have to buy it in order to get the CROG discount that's 60% off. So right now, I already sent them all the departments, different permits that they want, that they asked me to put in. And the quote right now is 75 to 100,000 with the discount. So if we wait till July 1, that's gone.
Jen, let me just help you with that.
Mhm.
No, it's not. But I'm not saying that we're not going to do this. But the last thing you need to get talked into to do anything is from a software salesperson, okay? Trust me, they'll sell it to you in September or December or a year from now. So forget all that. Don't worry about that pressure. Seriously, it's what I do for a living. Trust me. Just trust me. But $100,000 is what? Software?
It's for the software and developing of all the different licenses and things like septic soil testing, septic permits.
No, I
building
don't, but it's the software. It's the software.
Yeah, it's
Who-
cloud-based.
Who's installing it? They are?
Yes, it's
And
cloud-based.
that's part of the 100?
Yes, and all the transferring over of the data from Municity for all the building permits.
That's all in the 100.
Yes, and it'll connect to GIS.
Okay.
It will do, basically everything, tax department. So by statute, the health department for restaurant and salons cannot relicense unless it's been paid off. Your personal property taxes have been paid. So in this too, it'll have a component where tax has to sign. it.
That's all the functionality. But the 100,000, is that all in the 100,000?
Yes, I already have the.
So
quote.
are you good from a connection to finance? You're there. And what about IT? Is he on board?
Yep,
100%?
IT called the guy directly, Carl, and spoke to Amherst Mass, who's had it for 3 years, and IT's fully on board.
Excellent, good, okay.
Is
all
there
right.
an,
The only
annu-
department that's really not on board is building right now, but Kevin said they are on board, so.
Okay.
is there an annual renewal fee? or
The annual
maintenance?
renewal fee is 22,000, so that will be divided between all the departments.
Okay, so that's just gonna be an ongoing.
That's what you're getting
Yes.
into.
That's fine, just
Yeah.
so we know.
Yeah, and 22 will be 42 in 3 years, but it will be, just it's life in the big city.
It's booked here.
But
So does
I get it.
this, will this greatly help businesses and operate here in New Canaan?
Well, there's multiple things that this is gonna help. Number one, you can submit 24 hours a day.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about 7 to 3:30 coming in. Number two, only being able to pay by check, we've gotten nothing but grief about that because I don't even own a checkbook in this day and age. And so, and Darien said, once they switched over to this same software, 90% of people went to credit card payments. And my big thing is, I want the revenue going directly to finance, because the way it's working now is a building permit comes in, it goes to all our reviewing departments, no fees are collected from our departments until the very end. So if someone doesn't come pick up the permits, which there's a lot of them right now, we don't get our fees. But on my spreadsheets, I have all these fees so nothing matches with Munis. Where all our other permits, you pay up front. I don't review things for free. And so it was kind of
Good,
backwards.
Good, good.
So online permitting, the fee will come up front right then and there. So it really will end up paying for itself.
Yeah, but if it allows restaurants and small businesses to do everything with
Mhm.
us online,
Oh, yeah.
that has to make.
That's huge.
I can give you a real example of how this happened this year on like December 28th. There was a restaurant in town that had yet to pay his property taxes. And he was gonna not have his permit reissued come December 31st. His money had been stuck in a 10-day transit. If he'd had the ability to do this online, none of that, and there was a lot of.
No, its time has come.
Yeah.
And I think you're being generous with 1985, maybe 1955. So its time has come. I mean, we're not approving the capital tonight, but it'll be on the list and we just have to make sure we
Yeah,
circle
yeah,
it as a
that's good.
priority. Yeah, that's a great one.
I agree. One quick question, Todd. If, so it seems like a fairly compelling description of a need, so I get that. But in your view, is the support among all the other departments that are going to use this, or put another way, be compelled to switch to use this? Is there support for this product as the solution for the need? Is that support unanimous?
Yes,
Yeah.
except the one department, but that one department just didn't want online permitting, so it doesn't matter what the product is.
Yeah.
But they are going to have to get on board because it's,
Well, this is the answer. We're not going to
Yeah.
go get another package for another department.
no, and then this, because it's in 50 other municipalities in Connecticut, just basically take it over, smack it here. We don't have to reinvent the wheel and build the program.
Mhm.
Like Darien is so easy to use and we just cut and paste. Danbury has these instructions that you steal. And where with Municity, you were on
You
the,
borrow.
Oro,
whatever.
yeah. It's a lot.
Municity, we were like, the first people to buy that program and hence the problem that has become.
Yeah, good. Thanks for bringing this up
Oh, yeah.
and asking for it. Its time has come,
It's
for sure.
interesting, yeah.
And so we do need a little pressure on getting something signed by probably what is the end of their fiscal year, which is June 30th. I don't know that, but I'm guessing it's a government. And so that's why they have a deal. But we got to make sure our process doesn't get in the way of getting that done. That's all. That's on us. Or look, right, whatever we have to get signed in a contract and so forth, so. Okay,
Did you say June? You wanted to get it up and running by June?
well,
Did I-
July
No,
1
I
is when
need
the,
it. I need the money, but I
So did
told
you-
them, I'm like, I don't get my money till July 1.
yeah, they need to commit. Here's my point. They need a commitment by the end of their fiscal year. That's the sales
If I had the
incentive.
money today, I'd buy it tomorrow.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Because this is
Yeah.
archaic.
Did we?
Well, that's another
That's
question.
another-
I don't have a problem with that either. If it's just a
That's another-
special appropriation or,
It's not an enormous number and it's a
Yeah.
huge help.
It's not.
say again, Ann? Contingency.
Could.
Okay, why don't we do this? We meet again
A lot.
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
You want to bring this back to a meeting next Tuesday, next Thursday? I mean, why wait?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We do capital, then we can do a special, we
Or
can take it out of
Take it out of
contingency.
contingency. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, we can process this faster than that. So,
That would be
yeah.
fantastic.
But tell them
And
this.
Everybody
You
would
ready?
love it.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
What?
You'll make a deal with him by the end of March, but he needs to give you another 15%.
Okay.
Okay?
You know, I'm tough.
Okay. I
can
know
do
you
it.
are. I'm not, you're not gonna back, you are not gonna back away from that.
No, I don't tend to back down, so.
That's good.
Awesome.
Jen, I have just one more question. How many things are you licensed in?
Well, we
Just
license.
joking. It's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Incentives.
And give the state time, I'm sure there'll be something else they dump on my plate. But it will make our lives so much easier, especially you can automate it where it just renews itself. And and the businesses will be very happy, especially with credit cards. They're very upset they can't use credit
Good.
cards.
Let's make it easier for our
Did you want to
businesses.
cover revenue at
Yeah.
all? This is what it is.
So
I
I'm in
guess?
revenue now. So at the well question that came up earlier, you see my year to date, I'm already at the 5,000 that was in, and that's all because of geothermal wells, not
Mhm.
Wow.
potable drinking wells. And 'cause especially on these large estates that are 4, 6 acres, I mean, they put in 6, 8 wells and it's $100 per well.
Hmm.
So our money adds up quick. I did do a fee memo. The Board of Selectmen did increase our fees.
Mhm.
I only raised them slightly. And I only raised the restaurants, nothing's been updated since 2018. Especially with COVID, I didn't want to whack the restaurants or anything. We only increased it by $25 to get more in line with all the other towns. I gave the Board of Selectmen an entire breakdown of every town around us.
Okay.
And then septic was raised $50 per revenue, and that goes into effect July 1. So
Okay.
that's about it.
Great job. And
Thank you.
huge thank you for everything.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot.
Any other questions?
It's added up.
Colm, Tom,
That's good.
No, we're good. Thank you.
James? You still on? No?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Victor? Victor have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. So how often are people supposed to test their drinking water wells to make sure that the water is safe?
It's recommended to do it annually.
And do people do that?
No. They usually only do it for a real estate transaction. Or if, they're concerned about something like maybe pesticides in the area or something, but no, they should test it annually. It's the only way you know if you have bacteria in your well.
Yeah, but
Especially
when
some of
they
these
come
older
out every
wells.
year and you've got a well and they do an inspection, I mean, they do it in your garage on your systems. That they cover all the basics. You can then send it to a lab in addition to that.
Yeah, we do,
But-
we have the water bottles. People can come, pick them up. The courier
Yeah.
comes and gets them. It's another thing we do. Like the ticks you drop off.
Yeah.
Send them.
But I would think most people have the basics done.
Amazing.
So, my Lord.
Yeah, It's a great service.
Okay, anything else?
Doesn't take.
Yeah.
Bob, just some?
Nope.
You good? Thank you very much. You're up.
Pardon me? Someone's, a microphone's on there.
I think it's
mine. Hold on. Okay, you're good to go, Bob.
okay.
So let me.
And then click on. Share.
Oh, sure. You give me the month-old book.
You did get the first one.
All right.
Here you go.
I'm gonna,
Did you put notes on this?
of course, I'll keep it for now, but I'm gonna write old on it right now.
Mine says 152. I'm just saying, yes.
Yes, I asked that, coming in tonight.
Is the online?
So Bethany, yeah, I think maybe it's the speaker.
Yeah, I asked coming in tonight. So where was the last update? It's yours. Yeah, but
Yeah.
150. Oh,
where's your line?
it is okay. Okay, okay.
You're gonna hit it off. You're gonna hit it
No,
off.
I'm reading the salary line. Of 150. Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Okay, you ready?
Got it.
We got it?
All right.
Okay.
Everybody hear me? Okay, so our mission statement for the other half of Health and Human Services. We are the Human Services Department, and we help all New Canaan residents function optimally by developing programs and activities that address developmental needs, as well as by helping residents obtain appropriate social services and resources. So here's the department broken down with the mission statement in mind. We have individual assistance to help the residents, and we also have community outreach and education to develop programs and activities that address the needs of the town. And then it's a very fluid framework. It goes back and forth in terms of finding the individual or seeing that there is a community need greater than just a couple of people. And then we go downward to the state and federal programs, any programs that Human Services needs to generate, as well as reaching out to other nonprofits in the area. And then we also partner with local nonprofits to provide educational, developmental speakers and programs that people come to us to help sponsor. So our population, looking at it in a nutshell, about 20,000 people. That gives us 6,800 households. Of those households, our clientele is about 1,100 people of the total population, which is about 645 households. These are the people that we help with human service programs, local agencies, and state and federal programs for some type of assistance. And broken down, you can see the child, adult, and older adult that's represented in this 1,100. The state and federal programs and agencies that we work with, these are just state and federal. These are not the nonprofits. Department of Social Services, Husky and Medicaid, which is our health insurance based for Connecticut, the Connecticut Home Care Program for the elderly, Choices, which is a Connecticut health options choices that you have to be certified as a counselor, and Marcy Rand, the adult senior caseworker, she and I are both licensed, certified. We have the Medicare Savings Program, Energy Assistance, which we're in full force this winter. This is done between October and May. This is when we receive federal the residents receive awards if they qualify, and that money goes towards their electric and fuel. Renter's rebate, that is from August to October, and then a check for for those who qualify is given in November, December. And then we have our ongoing food stamps. So medically speaking, for the benefit plans, we have Husky A, B, C, and D. And the Husky A, you can see it has stayed consistent over the past couple of years. What they do is the qualification standards change as well. So maybe it looks like that the same number of people are qualifying, but the qualification structure has changed. And so that tends to keep it at a stable level as well. So Husky A, that's children and parents. That's a complete family. Husky B, children under 19 that are in a higher income household, but still in a federal poverty level guideline. So the parents basically don't qualify for it, but the kids do. We have Husky C, which is long-term care for those 65 and older, and as well as disabled. And then Husky D would be for the low-income adults between 19 and 64 years old. The Medicare Savings Program, MSP, that helps. It's additional, covers additional healthcare costs. You might not qualify for Medicaid, which is our Husky, but you might qualify for Medicare Savings Program while you're still paying the Medicare in full. So to break down just into terms of really the four, our 24 receive cash. It's very difficult to receive cash. What they like to do is receive it in terms of food, a higher SNAP monthly amount, medical, 1,855 people in New Canaan as of 2021 numbers. Definitely utilized our Medicaid healthcare system. So looking at the program, and that's run through Department of Social Services, we have those numbers. The next column is those in the state and federal programs. How many are human service clients that come in for other things as well as these state and federal programs? And we have an idea. They do not have to give us all this information. We try to gather it and put it together. And so you can see a percentage of the clients that are receiving state and federal assistance. Here's the percentage that they're also receiving other assistance in the town and area agencies. So our current management data, this can give you a comparison year to date 2023 compared to the past fiscal years. Our adult senior clients really do stay level. We have the passing of them, as well as moving to assisted living outside of New Canaan, moving in with an adult or child into a less expensive area. It really keeps our adult seniors at around 170. While on the other hand, youth and family, we're seeing an increase as more affordable housing is becoming available to move in. And the domestic violence cases, understand that these are cases that the police have given us. And so we do a follow-up. These are not cases that are with the Domestic Violence Crisis Center. If I'm correct, I could be wrong, but last fiscal year 2022, there were over 100 residents that sought help with the Domestic Violence Crisis Center. So don't confuse it with the cases that we receive from the police, and then we have to do follow-up. Many of them do not want to, we try to give them information. They can go to the DVCC on their own. We always encourage them, to feel comfortable with the avenue they take, but to know we are always there. But they still have the right to self-determination, and we give them the dignity that they need in order to get the qualified help that they might want to do confidentially. And then the referrals, we've already come up upon, what we did for fiscal year 2022. We're definitely ahead of the game in terms of referrals. And then we have our senior seasonal assistance programs, and you can just see the numbers there. You can also see the categories by what we see as a trend. And then we receive assistance from 3 sources: Human Services Special Projects, which is comprised of donations from the town residents or other organizations. And then we have the New Canaan Community Foundation, Touch a Life, and the Salvation Army. So those are our 3 payment sources that we pay the categories above.
Are we reading this right? You're at 27,000 year to date, halfway through. Is
Yes.
that compared to the other years
Yes.
halfway through, or is that
Yes.
compared to the full year?
No, so this is year to date. So, right. So fiscal year 2022, we did 24.2. Now that we're 8 months through, and we've already surpassed.
That's what I'm
You
asking.
can see the areas,
Yep.
food, electric and propane, Eversource. Canaan Parish, which used to be type of Section 8 housing, fuel was always covered, electric. When they rebuild, the project came onto being, but now every client has to pay their own.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
Huh.
there are
Not good.
60 low-income housing units that always had their electricity paid for. So you're going to see the jump. And this year they have applied to Operation Fuel, which you can see energy assistance. Energy assistance, really, they'll probably give about the same amount this year, around $40,000. You know, that once those awards are used up, then then Human Services starts kicking in with their payment sources. Rent, we're already at 10,000. The COVID rental programs,
Right.
everything, Unite Connect. They've closed down the COVID aspect where they were paying quite a bit,
Mhm.
thousands of dollars in rent. They do have a Unite Connecticut type of help for payment for rent. It's just not as lucrative for someone needing help.
We have any assurance that money will continue as is?
In terms of the coming in?
Yeah, no, from the state that are.
For the
help.
renter, I mean,
Yeah,
for the energy assistance? Yeah, I mean,
We know that's reliable.
yeah, it's
Okay,
reliable
just
up to a
curious, yeah.
certain point, but there are other towns that have larger safety nets. To where when a person spends their award, they have safety nets they can go down. With New Canaan being a more prosperous area, they say, well, Human Services can pay for 2 oil drop-offs and then we will open up a safety net for that individual
Hmm,
versus just
interesting,
going right
yeah.
in and
Houses
offering a
and-
safety net. But that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Here's our food pantry data. We've doubled our food pantry shoppers and individuals receiving food from January of 22 to December of 2022. Once again, we have affordable housing. We have an increase in the number of units that people can qualify for the food pantry. Very often when they qualify for affordable housing and low income housing. So we're getting this, generated a higher level of people coming to the food pantry. And then this is the unduplicated ages. These are, so you'll get a breakdown of what age group is utilizing, receiving food. The food pantry, it bridges a gap between SNAP and what they can afford. We cannot completely feed a family every month, but this bridges a gap. And we also offer things that SNAP does not pay for. Laundry detergent, toothbrushes, diapers, things like that. So we try to offset it with those items as well. Human Services programs. This is above and beyond the case management that we do. If we see there's a situation that we need to implement, if more than a few people are showing a need, we turn to an assessment type on a basis to see what's needed. Working with all the other departments in town, in terms of disseminating information, the community outreach team that was vital during COVID. We continue to use it for other reasons. But so you can see all these programs. We are adding do I have it in here? Grief counseling. I haven't added that yet. Marcy and I are becoming grief counselors. There's a need for, at LAPM, we're going to be holding support groups. Grief means loss. There's many types of grief. And it won't be just loss of a family member, but other types of losses as well. So we try to do soft marketing endeavors. We want people to know that Human Services is there. We're not going to be, coming up to you and saying, we saw that you had a DUI last week. Do you need help? No, we have to be very respectful of someone's dignity and self-determination. So we try to offer these soft marketing endeavors, creating an open door for someone that needs help to come and get help. Media outlets during the holiday season, we utilized the social media to just be aware of the public service announcements that we feel are important. These are the community partnering and education agencies that we use. They definitely do not, this does not complete the entire picture of who we reach out to and who reaches out to us. But it's always ongoing. The past few years, we have formed wonderful partnerships with people, with agencies, and it just only benefits the community and the resident. So what I'm requesting for our department this year, we really are keeping things in terms of salaries and number of people in the department. What I'm looking for is outside agency grant request increase. These are, I'm asking for another 22,000 compared to last year. We have found that there are a few charities, a few agencies that we have been working with over the past year that can cover items or things that we cannot, such as last month's security for someone moving into affordable housing. We cannot pay ahead with a deposit for anybody, but Catholic Charities can. Community Action of Western Connecticut can. We noted Elder House. We do not have an adult daycare program in New Canaan anymore, but Elder House in Norwalk does. So Get About Now, we have contracted with Get About and Elder House to where our residents can go. So we want to award them some grant money so that we can continue to utilize their services. And then Family Centers is another one that's more for the for the youth family and encountering in terms of, let me see, Den for Grieving Kids and a lot of behavioral health aspects for the town. So in summary, this is the fluidity that I wanted to show you, just to see that it's always going on. It's always in action. It's never stagnant. We don't know who's going to walk in the door. And we don't know what agencies, what state and federal funding is going to happen. But we have a wonderful community and we're able to continue with human services. But my requested budget, you'll see the yellow highlighted the last four. For the grants, we would like to award $2,500 to each of these four to get going in terms of forming a relationship with them to where we show that we're interested in what they can give us. We have, let me see, the Kids in Crisis increased their salary for the Teen Talk counselor for the high school, increased 11,000 to 96,000. We want to keep these Teen Talk counselors on site year after year. So we want to stay at the level of what the going rate is. We do not want to lose these counselors. There are other towns that want to take on the Kids in Crisis Teen Talk counselor program in their schools. If we don't pay, there's another town that will. So we really do have to support this. The Board of Ed is at this point paying for next year's Teen Talk counselor that we now have in the middle school at Saks. We're hoping that we can create a partnership with them and we'll maintain the high school Teen Talk counselor while they can maintain the Board of Ed, the middle school Teen Talk counselor.
There's 2 or 3. I thought
There are 2 right now. Yeah, but Kids in Crisis is now doing a pilot program in Greenwich with a middle school elementary school Teen Talk counselor, because they're finding behavioral health is happening in the elementary school. And if you look at the New Canaan Urgent Assessment Program and the breakdown, the age range is from 8 years old to 94 years old. We are seeing New Canaan residents needing, wanting to have their elementary school child assessed.
It's always worked out well for us. It has.
It has.
It's just remarkable.
Yeah.
Glad
Yeah.
to see that. Yeah.
And then we've doubled, let me see, what did we do? We took Domestic Violence Crisis Center, we increased that from 5,000 to 10,000.
I'm also seeing New Canaan Urgent Assessment in the book. It has 100,000 for 2024. And on the screen, it's only showing 5, or it's actually
It's not in your description.
It's
Yeah,
not, yeah, this is my request, but I think there was a change that was put into the budget for human services, the New Canaan Urgent, but this is something that Kevin,
Well, if the Board of Education puts 50,000 in their budget, we'll put 50,000 in our budget. So we reduce the amount. And I believe the superintendent is agreeable to adding $50,000 to his budget.
So that'll be added to this and also theirs. Or it's not in theirs. Yeah,
Reducing our 150 and the superintendent will add 50 to his
that's what I
budget
meant. Yeah.
But we're gonna spend 100,000 somewhere.
somewhere.
Yeah.
okay.
And if we have other towns come in, as we're trying to do, that may be lower, but we have to provide for it in case we don't get other towns to join us.
Is this the Silver Hill program?
Yes.
It is. It is.
Bethany, how does our level of contribution to these outside agencies compare with comparable towns like Westport and Darien?
Honestly, the grant system, I do not even know if they award grants in other towns the way we do.
Well, some other towns have kids in crisis. They
So
support.
they hire kids in crisis, yes,
Mhm.
but not from a grant award aspect. It's a line item. So this is how we've structured it through human services. What else? So yeah, $22,000 increase. That's really the focus of the department and why it has increased its request.
Any other questions for Bethany? Just get you what you need.
Oh, yeah.
This gets, yes.
Okay.
I'll tell you, with this partnering, the caseworkers that we have, the adult family, youth family caseworker, Jackie DeLuey, and then Marcy Rand, the senior adult caseworker, with these resources and these grants. I mean, this is why we can veer them into these agencies.
Right.
And what it does is, it opens us up as well monetarily as well as time wise to take on other people without hiring more people.
It's a way to scale. It's a good way to put
It's
it.
a
That's
great, I
yeah,
mean,
that's a great way to put it.
really, that's that fluidity of that whole
Well done.
formula that we're doing, and it
That's
seems to
great.
be working.
Any other questions from anyone online, Tom or Colm, Victor?
Yeah, I'm just wondering so we're talking about potentially increasing our affordable housing in town. If we were to increase our number of affordable housing units by 200 units, let's say, which is, the upper limit, what would that do to your expenses? I mean, would that be I would imagine that it would increase them, but what's your sense? Would be
It would increase it would increase the amount of money we possibly would be taking from our three sources of payment, New Canaan Community Foundation, we might ask more money from them, Salvation Army, as well as community contributions, the donations. 3 years ago, we budgeted $22,000 a year as a line item from the town, but in terms of my request, where can we see this? It used to be, it's even been taken off, 22,000. We've taken that off because the donations, the outreach from the community coming into human services, they donate so much financially as well as, tangible things too. Food pantry, food drives, things
Right.
like that. We've been able to take off the line item of 22,000 because the monetary donations have been incredible. So we might ask for more donations. I don't know. We might dig deeper into our donations but it is it all depends on the economic environment as well. There's a lot of variables.
Need more subsidy from the state in this situation like
Could be
that?
getting more subsidies.
Well, that
know.
would be where you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Lot of ifs, but I do see, with more, if affordable housing, does come in at a higher rate here, I mean, we're going to be definitely, there'll be more assistance that's required.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. That was great,
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
as always.
Stop the share.
Yeah, do you want to go to Larry first?
Just coming in.
Yeah, that's fine. That's okay. Yeah, sure. Is Larry up? Larry, hi.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We went.
We're good. We've got your presentation. It's up. And so you want to walk us through the benefits, please?
Absolutely. Nice to see everybody. So what I wanted to cover tonight, I know this is kind of an annual discussion around the budgetary process here, and Anne and everybody's been working on the budget. And we're in very good position, as I think has been the message over the last many years. And this slide here gives a snapshot of really how we score keep, if you will, the program. So to kind of fast forward in the budget process this year, we're projecting pretty much a flat budget, which is unique in the healthcare world. We work with many, many different employers, all different shapes and sizes. And one of the main things, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in a few minutes, is the inflationary aspect to healthcare programs, which is now looking more like our CPI, which has inched up over the last year or so, as we all know and are realizing. So here, what we're looking at really is just a snapshot, a historical snapshot of how we look at our program, actual, what we call self-funded SF costs versus our accruals. We also have a chart in here, or a bar, if you will, tracking back to fully insured premiums if we were still to be fully insured, which we haven't been fully insured for many years. So here, looking at the bottom, you can see just kind of going back from when we went self-insured in 2016, we've run about $39 million in accruals and roughly 37.3 million in costs, plus our incurred but not reported, which the town holds. So we've run a surplus of almost $2 million, 1.7 million since inception of the self-insured program. This year, right now, we are running year to date in the first 6 months of this year about $365,000 ahead of the accrual. When we say accruals, they usually are synonymous with budgets, but they're not always exact in our case, because our accruals are rates that we're using to base our employee contributions off of, and it usually ties very close back to the budget. But just kind of looking at it from a very high level here, you can see that even back in 2016, we were at about $5 million of accruals. And all these years later, we're still at roughly 5.6 million. So that's just a tremendous result. There's not many people that have achieved that kind of result. So
Hey, Larry.
So far, so good.
Larry,
Yes.
before we went to self-insured in 2015, I think we were at like $8 million for fully insured.
Yeah, we were, Kevin, I don't know if it was as high as 8, but we were pressing up against 7 million. We had a very bad year with Blue Cross, and they gave us a very large increase, and we decided to pull the trigger on it. So we got out from under that increase, and our experience turned. So we did save quite a bit of money in the first year. You could see in the first year we were at about 6.5 million over on the right side there, and our cost was 4.2 million. So that delta would have gone right to the insurance company's bottom line. So the self-insured vehicle has worked really well
That's the number.
for the town.
It's over $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the next chart, go to the next page. This is one area that we spend a lot of time on. And is actually the most important, well, one of the most important parts of the program. This is our stop loss insurance. This is the insurance that protects the town and the school board. We have a commingled program with the school board. We manage that program. Our firm does. And we have stop loss insurance in place for high claimants, catastrophic claimants. So what this chart is showing you is that we're not going to get the crying towel out for the insurance company, but here what it's showing you is that we've paid in a lot more over the last about 5 years, 4.5 years in the insurance companies paid out a lot more in stop loss refunds than they've received in premiums. So the stop loss insurance is in place to protect the town if we have any one claimant, and that could be an employee or a dependent, that exceeds, and we raised the level a little bit a couple of years ago to 150,000 per claimant. So you can see here that interestingly, we've run pretty consistent where we have roughly 20 to 24 people on the high end a year pierce our stop loss. This year, we're running better. So far, we only have 7. So you can see the loss ratio has gotten materially better, but the loss ratio in the second half of the year will turn because we have a lot of people that are matriculating towards 150,000. So if you look at any stop loss insurer's book of business, they, in the last quarter or so of the plan year, usually take it on the chin. So one of our challenges has been that our reinsurance costs are going up. I made a note here, one of the things that's driving some of our large claims here is that our average age is now 48 years old for an employee covered under the plan versus an average of about 45 on a typical employer plan. So, and I've talked about this before, we're not a tech company where we're consistently bringing in a lot of younger people into our risk pool. We have a risk pool that, as you all know better than anybody, we do hire some younger people, police and fire, but for the most part, we have people that have been with the town for many years that are getting older. And as we all know, as you get older, you incur more medical expenses. So one of our challenges, but we've like I said, managed the renewals to a point where, and again, stop loss insurance is it's a small piece of our, I should say small, it's getting bigger, but it's only a piece of our total cost. So I just wanted to illustrate.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
So on the Board of Education budget, the largest increase to the Internal Services Fund were the premiums for the stop loss insurance. And I believe it was going up to 2.7 million in the 2024 forecast. How does that reconcile to what we're looking at on the screen?
Hey,
Well-
just one quick clarification there, Victor. It was going from 1.4 to 2.1, and that is actually an estimate. They have it out to bid, and they'll have a bid back in April, May. So we don't really know what the number is, but the estimates, it was extremely high, and you're right, it was a very large percent. I was going to ask the same question. Are we
Well-
bidding this, or we feel the need to, or?
We should talk about that for a minute because
Yeah.
we do manage the
Or
program.
got our attention.
You sure do.
For
Yeah,
That's a
well,
very-
yes.
Yeah.
That's a very conservative estimate.
So
But
Yeah.
I would be shocked if we ended up anywhere near that. But keep in mind something last year, and this is important to understand in terms of the contract that we have on the stop loss insurance. The contract we have has 2 main provisions in it that we only put forth in our, to our clients, and that is a no new laser at renewal provision and a rate cap. So what happened with the Board of Ed last year, and I don't know how granular you got with it, but last year, the Board of Ed had 2 organ transplants facing them that the insurance company, when we went out to market, the other insurers that wanted to bid, a lot of them did not want to bid because of the potential exposure. they were lasering those two individuals at over $1.2 million each. So what that means is that the Board of Ed's stop loss insurance on those two individuals would not have been $300,000. It would have been 1.2 million, the deductible on each of those individuals. Because of our provision in our contract, it does not allow for a laser. The insurance company had to live with the $300,000 deductible, but they were allowed to raise the premium by 50%. So if their premium was roughly 700 and something $1,000, yes, it went up roughly $350,000, but they got out from under a potential of over $2 million of additional liability that would have hit their claims account and budget. So kind of going back to your original question, and again, I've not had any conversations yet with with Joe Spurgeon, their consultant. I can understand why they built it into their budget, because that's what they got hit with last year. But from where I see things right now, I don't think we'll be anywhere near that.
So the budget, the actual this year, I think is 1.4. The budget proposal was 2.1. We asked them in our question, what that obviously that's an estimate. That is not an approved number. We need an estimate. When do you think we would get an estimate for on their stop loss?
Well, keep in mind, they are a September renewal. The town is on a July. So we would have it locked up, I would say, by May.
Okay, because that's when we approved the budget, and we've said we need a new number. We need the best number, and that whatever that comes down comes off the budget. So
Yeah, they've been, like I said, back of the envelope. What they basically did was they said we got hit with 50% last year. We built in 50% this year. It is extremely unlikely we'll be anywhere near that.
Okay, understand. They would have said the same thing, that they would have said it quite as well as you did, but they did say that it was an estimate. So, okay.
And actually in our meeting, Brian did say that it was a very conservative estimate
Yes,
as well.
that's right.
So.
Yeah.
It can't get any, again, because of that, in stop loss insurance, the insurance companies, if you don't have those provisions, can basically either laser you and keep your rates down, or they can not laser you and absolutely explode your rates. It's all about, it's like your property insurance. They want to just try and collect enough premium to cover the claim. So
it was the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
Larry, the point though on the Board of Ed is that the 5 assumptions for next year did not include the 3. So presumably the 3 have,
That's right.
they've
Cobra.
Yeah, they've
They've come out.
transferred off
That's right.
or they're,
That's right.
they're gone or whatever. So do you think that that's a reasonable? I mean, if
Great
that's-
point. Great point.
Well-
That is the main thing.
Yeah,
That exactly. That's the first thing that stop loss insurers at. What's going on with these really bad claimants, and to the extent that they've left the program, or just are no longer covered for one reason or another,
that's right.
helps the renewal tremendously. And
Yeah.
that's my point. I'm looking at the same experience, and that's why I made that point. I don't see that evolving this year on the Board of Ed. So I would be,
Very helpful.
that's why I made that point.
Very helpful. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so here on the next slide,
Sorry, Larry, Amy I think you had a
Yeah, I'm sorry. And I should know this from previous, just in terms of the stop loss cap for the town at 150 and the Board of Ed being 300. We're comfortable. I mean, how do we decide that the town would be at half that level as we have an older? I mean, is the town
is
population older
Yeah.
than
yes, oh,
the-
yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes, we don't,
the younger ones riskier to get the big expenses or?
well, it's a great question because, just from an age standpoint, we're older. We also have more families under our plan, so we're covering more belly buttons per average employee.
Yeah.
That's a medical term.
But we don't, the school board has, obviously a lot of teachers there, that a lot of them are younger. But with that being said, from a risk standpoint, groups that are predominantly female actually have higher medical costs. So, when we're talking about stop loss, and to go back to your question, in terms of group size, they are probably at the right deductible around 300,000. Our group at 200 employees, we're right about where we should be in terms of our deductible, because we're very concerned about volatility. And what the stop loss does is remove a lot of the volatility of the program because of, we have collective bargaining agreements, because our people pay a percentage of the program. We don't want to be yanking the percentages around, if we had a very high deductible, we could have a lot of volatility and we'd be yanking people all over, the place from year to year based on their share. So
Because we have a smaller pool of people.
exactly.
There's, okay, thank you.
Exactly.
And also last year, just to jump in, we were at 125 and we went up to 150. So we did move it last year.
Yeah, we've moved it up because the problem is it's like all the insurances, the amount of in fact, I was just reading a report on large claimants. It used to be if you hit $1 million, you were dead. But the reality is now every employer will have a person hit $1 million every 3 years. So if you're over a certain number of lives. So as we all know, whether it's high cost oncology, some of these very new to the market specialty medications, I had a claim last year, 2.5 million on someone, an infant. So the reinsurance industry is taking a real beating on these very, very large claims. So again,
Larry, how does the 20 to 24 that went through the stop loss on the town side compare to the last few years? Number wise, are we higher? So is that going to affect our
we're very consistent.
Is
very
it consistent? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not too bad then.
You can see though, like what, in 20, we had $2 million in large claims in 21.
Yeah.
You can see like what I'm talking about in terms of the volatility. We had some people that really were very, very sick, as we know, and that's why it's there. But our experience, as you can see this year, we're running very well. And that's why I made those comments about in terms of the renewal, we're holding more cards in our hand this year as we head towards the renewal than we have in the last few years.
Okay, let's keep going.
So this is just a chart that shows you the historical increases or healthcare increases in our country for employer-sponsored plans, going all the way back now about 15 years. The red is where we are, and this has no real rhyme or reason to our budgeting, but it just shows you on a per capita basis that just looking at certain years, our costs are down. And this is exactly what we were just talking about, in terms of 200 employees, the volatility that we see, that you can see that we're right around, we're actually probably running below the trend line in general for the last at least 3 to 4 years. We've been up a little bit, but last 21 into 22, we were down 12% on a per capita basis. This year we're back up a little bit. Again, this is going to be a point in time look at things. But the main emphasis of just showing you this slide is to reemphasize that we are in an inflationary environment. And as we all know, if you go out and talk to anyone in the healthcare industry, hospitals, they're all struggling with the same things that you guys are meeting with and talking about in terms of budgets, salaries, equipment, buying goods and services are all going up, and it's reverberating back to the plan. So that's why the main point is we can't just stick our heads in the sand and say there's no inflation out there. Our plan is running so well. Inflation is not going to impact our plan. It will. And just so in terms of the next slide, we just wanted to provide, I know Ann gives you all the detail and it's in all your information here, but this is just a breakdown that we work with Ann and Cheryl and Kevin and everybody on the team with regards to how our costs break down. So you could see we're looking at bottom line about 7.4 million in terms of the budget. I think we're right about 7.5 right now. So again, and we are sitting with, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier today. We're sitting with a balance in our service fund of about I believe almost $1.6 million. So the plan is very healthy, very good. And this factors in our budget. We are factoring in, we didn't build in a 50% increase. We built in a 15% increase because that is what we typically would normally start with in terms of a stop loss renewal, about anywhere from 15 to 20%. So the budget here does include an increase, some modicum of increase to our reinsurance costs.
Explain to me the internal services fund balance. That is literally our contingency surplus.
Yeah, if we go back to the first slide, that's basically.
That's the 1.7 ish.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the question that we should ask is, why do we want to carry that kind of balance? And do we want to pay down an expense from there? We could do that. Yep. Okay.
That's a great question. We've talked, and again, that's totally for you guys to debate.
Yeah.
Kevin and I have been talking about that, I think, since we first met when Kevin was on the Board of Finance.
Town council.
Town council.
Town council.
You got promoted to the Board of Finance.
But right. So you raise a great point. In terms of running a health insurance plan, and the town in Canaan is never going to go out of business, and you're never not going to meet the obligation. So the big question is, why do we maintain this big fund with this balance in it? And Kevin and I would always talk about, if we're running this plan and we think top line, we're going to have $4.8 million in costs and claims, and that's our variable cost. Right. Everything else is fixed. Again, this is not an exact science. So we would say, let's put a 10%, 12% based on a group this size, anywhere from 7.5% to 12% margin or reserve aside for claims fluctuation. So we would, your point is well taken. You don't really need to have $1.7 million sitting there, because if things really go bad, they would probably go bad in the neighborhood of, let's say, 10 to 12%.
So you're talking about a 10%, I'm just using 10% as a placeholder, contingency on the 4.7
exactly
claims. So say call it 470, round it to $500,000. And we're sitting there with 1.7 million.
Yeah.
So my point is, we can talk about that and vote on it, but it would be very wise, I would think, given the other increases elsewhere, to very seriously consider about taking $1.2 million, applying it to the expense, reducing the expense, reducing the increase.
Yes.
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 Everybody think about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we may want to think about that as we move it to the town council. That would be one of our recommendations.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little bit today as well. We, as we get closer to July, again, we're sitting here in the middle of February. We have built in some inflation into our numbers, but once like you said, in May, we'll have additional couple of months of experience under our belt. We'll get a little clearer picture of how the year is running, but you're definitely going along the right track. If the thing is going to go off, it's only going to go probably, again, the other thing is the stop loss insurance level. So when you have $150,000 stop loss level, your fluctuation is buffered. Like I said, we're buying insurance to protect against volatility.
That's right.
So the likelihood of exceeding 10% over in costs, unlikely.
Hey, Josh, and a clarification. So this 1.7, is that what it is?
That's the balance, and we're talking about holding 500.
No, I understand that. Right now, is that when we talk about our general fund surplus, is that in there?
No.
That's a separately.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure, because, sometimes we roll up these, because, we have our exactly. It's not any of that.
The Board of Ed is the only one in there that's required by the policy for their coverage of the 60% by the town.
Okay.
That's the only.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure we weren't like, as we tap this, say, bringing down our reserves. We're not.
No.
This is just hanging out separate place.
Is this earning
Truly
interest
found
now?
money.
Just
Yeah.
hate to go back to cash, but is this earning interest now? Is this?
I set it up as a CBA so that it goes back to the pool cash, and pool cash just funds that all the time. So I keep no cash in that account basically. keep it in the pool cash, so that's the account that I can monitor on earning additional interest.
Excellent.
And the rate on that,
Yeah.
again, that's,
Money market is 4.1.
okay, that's the 4.
That's
Good.
fantastic.
Okay, so it's not completely dead.
Because unlike a pension fund, which is required to be held in trust, this is something as an accounting matter, we,
Right.
you know, we invest it.
Yep.
And we keep track of it as a fund.
Okay, well, that is an excellent presentation, Larry.
All right.
It doesn't get better than.
We like
you-
found money.
You've now found,
Yeah, that's.
confirmed that we had, well, we knew we had it, but it's nice to know that
Nice to know
your
where.
recommendation would be something more like a 7 to 12% contingency. Through the work that everybody's done here, frankly, and managing it, we've been able to build up a surplus. It's give it back to the taxpayers, put $1.2 million against that, and good input on the stop loss. That was helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Anything else for Larry? If you have another $500,000 idea, it's in the clock, you're on the clock, but if not, we'll move on. Not for now.
I don't yet.
All right. All right. You know where to find us.
Thanks, Larry.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody. Good to see you.
All right, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great job.
Take a bow.
Say what?
Take a bow.
Ribbon,
Take
ribbon
up-
cutting.
With that.
You want to be, you want to be at the other
I
microphone.
think you want to use this one just to avoid the speaker.
Use that one.
Oh, that one. Yep. Either one.
Hey. Well, I start Chair.
While you're pulling that up, I did mention on our meeting on Tuesday, which now seems like 2 weeks ago, by the way. That the event on last week was tremendous. The 500 plus people in there, 650,
Wow,
what's
great.
500 plus? Amazing, but a great, tremendous partnership, private partnership and public partnership with all those amazingly generous donors that we pulled together.
It was, thank you.
Yeah.
It was great. And the slides I have to show you for everybody who already saw it on Saturday night. I'm sorry, you'll see it again because I've got a few slides here to just talk about the new library. I think the big story of this budget is, and wait a minute, I know some of you are coming and speaking, but if you haven't already received an invitation, there is a general invitation to come for the ribbon cutting and speeches and thank yous. And really, we want to talk about what an amazing public-private partnership this has been on Tuesday morning. I think we've asked a lot of press to come and things like that to show what can be done when a municipality and its people join together to do something amazing for their community. So big story about this budget is we're talking about a budget that starts in a few months on a building and an operation that is hasn't opened yet. So we're extremely excited about all that there is to come. We've been doing our projections over and over again over the last couple of years, and I think we've got a budget here that's going to do the job.
Who is
Keep
that?
going. It's okay.
But I say that at the outset, most years we're here looking at past performance and actuals and strategic goals, and we're making it all work. This year, it's all of that, but with a completely new operation. So just a bit of a reminder of sort of what we're doing over here at the library, and what our goals are. And to be an essential place for lifelong learning, culture, and connection for everyone in New Canaan. To build meaningful community connections through our geographic and social centrality for everyone in New Canaan. And to be a community anchor that supports community well-being through all of the amazing spaces that we have in the new library. We've got amazing new spaces to provide opportunities for learning and cultural appreciation, things like the teen library, the teaching kitchen, the auditorium, the maker lab. The new building is larger, a little bit larger, 4,000 square feet larger. but it is much more efficient, and we hope to be serving all the community's needs for library with better spaces and expansive, comfortable seating. Target audiences in particular that we've been thinking about are families with our fit for purpose, much larger children's library with appropriate space for teens as well as tweens, tutoring areas, the green in the children's garden. We've been thinking about remote workers. We were already thinking about the need for remote workers before COVID, certainly post-COVID, it's an even greater need. We work hand in glove with our entire local nonprofit community, both in partnerships, but also providing spaces for them to do their great work. Promoting and working with our local businesses and hopefully promoting people to go from the library to local businesses. And at the core, providing great experiential learning and cultural appreciation for everyone in New Canaan. So on to what we're here for. Resourcing comes in a variety of ways. Funding, obviously, human resourcing, supporting the work of the team through infrastructure, and all of the community collaborations. I've got this, there we go. How do we get rid of this bar? No, it's gone away. I don't know. If you did something, it worked. So we work really hard to provide all the resourcing for our team to do their job. And that includes, we work really hard to activate local philanthropy, and we advocate strategically to try to make sure that we're building our annual fund and our endowment at all times. So on philanthropy, just looking at the last couple of years, we've been doing really well. These are gross numbers. In 2022, that ended June 30th, we raised almost $813,000 for our operating budget. In the current year, we are hopeful of raising $775,000. Given we were closed for several months and in the middle of construction, we did pull that back a bit from before. But it is in line with what we had projected for this past year. And we're projecting about $785,000 for annual fund philanthropy for 2024. I've got a few slides here to just show you comparisons with all of our peers. As always, our peers are those libraries around us that are similarly affluent and that have the same sort of structure we have. So Wilton, Ridgefield, Darien, Greenwich, and Westport. And in terms of philanthropy as a percentage of our operating budget, you can see that once again, New Canaan is the most generous community in terms of supporting the library. Looking at other revenue that isn't from the town grant, we've got our own generated income. So things like fines, gifts that we get unexpectedly, things like that. And we have the state of Connecticut, and then unusual things that turn up that we're not expecting. And you can see they're audited 2022 through to projected for next year. So we're really expecting to generate about twice as much income as we did, as we are this current year in the next year through the leases.
Lisa, where do you think that's going to come from? I know it's more deeper programming or.
No, leases, room rentals.
Okay.
Fines. So that's what that is.
Okay.
Yep. So this is not philanthropy. This
No, I get
one,
that, yeah.
Yeah. So this one, yes, definitely. People who appreciate the programming and make a gift to make sure that we can continue to grow programming for sure. But that money generally finds its way into philanthropy. Whereas this is really, we're expecting people to use the libraries back at numbers as high as or higher than what we saw pre-COVID. So a lot of people forget to bring their books back on time. So fines will bounce back a little bit. But mainly that's things like room bookings. We haven't seen any room bookings for the past 3 years because people didn't want to pay to book a room. They didn't want to be with people. So, and lease, we just signed a lease today for the cafe. So things like that. And the very generous grant that we get from the town of New Canaan, just looking at the last few years. And as you know, because you've seen the full budget proposal, we're looking at a 4.7% increase this year. looking at that grant over the last several years compared to CPI, going back to 2019, that was a year when we had talked about, I used that as base year because that was the year we had talked about catching up. We were perpetually struggling to recruit and retain. And we talked about a 4 or 5 year plan to grow resourcing so that we could better recruit and retain staff. And then, so that's baseline 2019 dollars. And then just looking at how we're tracking, we made some gains, we made some loss, a bit of a loss. And right now we're a little bit further behind CPI with this 24 request than we were a year ago, but again, this is another way of looking at the other side of the philanthropy chart, looking at the town grant as a percentage of income. And you can see that we're not as far off as we have sometimes been from the others. Looking at the town grant in a per capita way, which is the only sort of apples to apples way to look at these things. We can see that our peers are still mainly funding their library a little bit ahead of us.
So how we want to say that?
How would we say that?
Oh,
On operating, we're only talking about
Okay.
operating. We're only talking about operating.
Okay.
No, this is strictly an operating budget. And on to expenses. And this is just that looking at those statistics from the Department of Labor Statistics, specifically about our salaries and compensation line. And again, there you can see where we made a bit of a push in 18, 19, 20. We fell back a little bit, but we're tracking along sort of in parallel to that line. Our expenses on compensation are very much in line with all of our peers. Our infrastructure costs have dropped the last couple of years. That is because COVID in 2020. And then in the past year, we've really tried not to spend any money at all for any infrastructure costs while we were, about to take down that building. And then we see it coming back up in line pretty much with where it was on the smaller, older building a few years ago in the projections. You have that all in front of you, so much easier to see. We've got an amazing team to start operating this new building. And I just wanted to use the opportunity in front of you to talk about what an incredible group of librarians and others we have running the library, and how confident I am that the service delivery that we will see starting next Tuesday will be absolutely extraordinary and will match for quality what we're seeing with that new building. Questions?
Staffing changes, is it janitorial up or anything like that at the new library?
Well, I'm expecting to grow the cleaning staff.
Right.
Yep, for sure. The
bigger.
number of hours,
Mhm.
if not headcount, for sure. We have to do that.
Yeah, but programmatic staffing staying the same and
Overall, we're not adding any full-time employees. We'll look at adding part-time employees. They're much more flexible. So we're running several vacancies where we maybe have a vacancy for a 25-hour person. Maybe we'll actually get 2 15-hour people, or, a combination of people, because it gives us a lot more flexibility with a really busy library. But we've been running quite a number of vacancies for the past 18 months. We fill one, we were able to promote from within, and then we create a new vacancy. And then it's been really challenging to fill vacancies. I'm super hopeful, maybe not so much from next week.
with your new digs, they're gonna want to work there.
Hope so.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Can you speak a little bit to the programs and this increase? I don't recall discussing that before.
So tell me.
The 9.6 for the programs up to 83, 3.
Well, we were at between 70 and 80. So I guess one of the things to talk about is we've used the opportunity of this year when we've making so many changes to actually reorganize this budget in a way that's logical. I inherited a budget format 10 years ago that didn't make sense. To the way the business actually worked. So we've made some big changes to reorganize things, so it really made much more sense here. But programs is not one of those things that got changed, but we've only matched the formatting going back 2 years. But if we look, I could pull up a budget from a couple of years ago. That's about the same as what we were spending on programming 3-4 years ago before COVID.
So you're not increasing programming or diversifying it or?
Diversifying it hugely,
But
we're spending a huge amount of time and energy really thinking about programming. But we've just been underspending for 3 years because of
well,
COVID.
I get that.
The
No, I
compare is
get
really
that.
18,
So
19.
it's- Yeah.
Yeah, if
The
you go
best
back to,
comparison-
If
that's
you go back to 19, the
That's the compare.
programming budget was $91,000, now 83.
Yeah,
So what
that's the
they're
compare.
doing
So that's
is they're
the,
getting back
all right,
to
that's
the regular
What's a better way to compare?
order.
yeah.
And doing it rather smartly, because I think, they're less, spending less now than they did in 2019. So I would, we expect that to expand.
I hope so.
as
Yeah.
programs expand.
I think we absolutely want it to expand because the programming and the collections, it's the tricky bit with doing a budget. It's the one thing that's got a bit of elasticity in it. Not much else in this budget has any elasticity. But those are the two things that this community is looking for us to deliver every day. And there is a very high expectation on quality and quantity. So yes, I hope over time that we are able to grow that budget. And we, as you alluded to earlier, the more people love programming, hopefully we can translate that, we can activate philanthropy around that.
Yeah, well, that's the reason that you have 25% of your budget covered by philanthropy is because of the product you deliver.
Yep.
And that's the way to look at it. Here we
Mhm.
have, again, it's like a
Investment.
building. We get a $40 million building for $10 million.
Right.
Here we get, terrific programming and services
For less.
for 75 cents on the dollar.
Good point.
And you have so much more space to offer programming.
We do. So even though the building is only 4,000 square feet larger, the usable space is something like 26,000 square feet larger.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because the other building was just so
Chopped up
poorly
and-
designed,
yeah.
right?
Subterranean. and- yeah.
Subterranean, lots and lots of little small spaces, lots and lots of space for mechanicals under the building. Just an incredible amount of wasted space. So, but we were heating it all. And
Just on that, I know we talked about this over the last 2 years, but you were thinking that coming into with the new building, actually the operating costs like heat and other things would go down, even though it was bigger. So are you thinking you'll still see those savings?
absolutely. Let me open up here. Let's see if we can open up these.
Victor's screen is like a screensaver. It just keeps moving around. Oh, okay. I was gonna say that is really funny.
Sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault.
Your prime time.
So you can see here the energy line. Oh. You can see here the energy line.
Not really. Read it for us, baby.
You do the comparison.
Where's Walden?
There we go.
On it.
Better. Move Victor. Put him in 2021 over there. And call him Z.
So this year we've got a budget on energy costs of 77,000. We're budgeting 55 for next year.
There you go.
And that's
Wow.
despite,
I was
not
yeah,
even
I
apples
was
to apples.
That's right.
Energy
Yeah.
prices are up quite a bit.
So,
it's hard
that's.
it's really a bigger
I
savings.
put this budget together, as you know, in November, when we submit it. We've had big energy costs.
Yep.
We know energy demand will be lower in this new building.
Mhm.
As for the cost of energy.
Yeah,
you
you can't control that.
One thing I'm not in control of.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So
that's great. That's the
but
answer to the
yeah,
question. That's
Yeah, yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
But the amount of energy saving technology.
That came
Yeah.
through in the presentation, yeah.
Yeah. So it should be, the absolute amount of energy should be so much lower. The expectation on the modeling is that it'll be 40% lower. Then we put the solar on, which is going to, I think today, we got the green light to move forward with putting solar on the roof starting next week, that project. And that should reduce that 60% number by another 30%. So,
That's amazing.
so we'll be very excited to get the
Fantastic.
solar
That's
on.
great.
Today, they programmed all the lights in the building, so almost every light has both an occupancy sensor and a daylight sensor.
Hmm.
So that if a room is empty, or if you're sitting still, but if the room is empty, lights will go off. If bright light is coming in, the lights will dim to account for it or go off depending on that. Heating is all being programmed, so in the old building, the heat was either on or off. Now we have a programmed heat and it's all targeted to every space so that we're not heating the whole just to heat a cool spot or cooling the whole building for a warmer space in the sun. We've got all the technology on the glass to help reduce the glare and the hot spots as well. And then, of course, insulation, there's a vast amount of insulation in that building. And then with the green roof on top of the whole concourse, that adds another foot deep of insulation in the form of plants and soil, which will really help to moderate the temperature in that space as well. So.
Plus we hooked up the mobile generator today to the building to show that, if we need it, we can move the mobile generator over to power the.
And it worked perfectly.
Perfect. Very good.
So that's it.
Very
And
good.
totally
How
not
many,
wanting to
Lisa,
tempt
how
fate,
many,
we've lost electricity.
how many full-time employees and part-time employees?
Question of the month. We have 24 full-time employees.
How
And the-
many are still with benefits?
Well, all of them.
Pension benefits.
Ours or yours?
You have I thought you were on our pension.
Nope.
The older employees.
Well, I think we have
ones
two.
that-
I think we have
two?
two
I was
employees.
thinking it was two, but I wasn't sure.
If
Is it?
Cheryl's still on, she will know. I think it's two
Yeah,
on the old, yeah,
Yeah.
that predate 2011.
okay.
But that's an interesting point for the budget. Because if you see our compensation line,
Yeah, I don't. That's why.
right
it
here.
Where was the, oh, and you're, yeah,
yep,
okay.
right under operations,
Alright.
first line. Which I realize you can't really see this as well, but if I open up these rolled up areas here.
People who grind to show the videos.
Let's see, reshare. Well, the main point is because of that transition since 2011, wherein library employees that were hired post 2011 went on to our own pension scheme.
Yeah,
But
That's-
it's not a pension, it's a.
The 403B, it's a
Four-
defined
Right.
contribution scheme, not a defined benefit scheme. So slowly over time, there was this very slow shift from the town's defined contribution scheme to our defined benefit. But in the last couple of years, we've seen that go up quite significantly because of all the retirements that we had through the COVID period. So our pension costs, our 403B costs have gone up about 46%, 47% for the year ahead.
Your defined contribution and we were defined benefit. I think you said that.
Did I say it the wrong way around?
Yeah.
We're defined contribution,
Yeah.
yeah. But now
Town
almost,
council, when we passed that. it was a
now I've got
serious
24
accomplishment.
employees,
That was one of the
of
great.
which 22 are on the
And-
defined contribution on ours, yeah.
Without controversy.
Yeah, but you have to bear in mind that, it's 46%, but that 46% is $21,000.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, no, it's hugely, yeah.
The percentage is huge, but
Yeah,
the number.
But the
is
number is not.
relatively modest.
So maybe a question for you, Chris. You were the liaison. How do you feel? The increase is a little more than obviously we had budgeted. What's your sense?
Our sense is that this is still driven by the need to the personnel need, the types of people that are available to take these jobs, what you have to pay to get them. And it's like any other business relies on skilled professional, the costs have gone up, and it's, in our opinion, it's made a lot of sense.
Okay. Any other questions for Lisa? Tom, anybody?
No, all good.
Nobody? All good? Going once?
Can't wait for Tuesday.
Look,
Very exciting.
congratulations. What
Take
you,
it back.
what that product is amazing. It's going to be a tremendous crown in this, for this town. It's really a jewel, no question about it. I do want to give a shout out to Chris, who for years has been helpful. And been a major benefit for us to have him part of this conversation from our Board of Finance perspective. Neil Budnick, who was again instrumental from our point of view. And last but not least, Tom Schulte. Holy cow, a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of input, a lot of insight. And I can't thank the members, the rest of the members, but those three in particular for everything they did. So thank you. And thanks for really shepherding this thing through thick and thin.
Well, I mean, I really want to thank this body for all the support that you have given the new project and the library to get there, and supporting what we do every year, supporting this operating budget is no small part of how we managed to do that. Because if I hadn't had a team around me that were so great, this doesn't happen with a handful of people. It happens with an army, and having that team working with me was critical. And so being able to attract and keep good quality staff is key to that. And
Okay.
that's, you've all been so supportive of this all along, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
You're welcome.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Josh and Ann, bring us home.
Mm-hmm.
8:30.
Yes. I agree. Can I just say before we start on,
Sure.
No.
everybody's presenting their budget, but.
The only question, I think you need to move the mic closer, right? Or it should be okay, maybe between you and down a click maybe or something, just to make sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Everybody's presenting the budget. Josh is going to present the general government tonight, but
Okay.
I just want to give a shout out to Josh for all the hard work and commend him for all the hard work in putting this budget together. He came in last year midway, and now he's seen it from the beginning. So he's done an amazing job. of
Awesome.
getting all the information.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
And extremely responsive. And whatever you send us is really, really, really well done. No, I'm serious. It's
Yeah.
great. You're
Just
really,
anticipate,
tremendous
yeah,
asset.
Questions, so.
Okay. well, we have some tough ones for him.
All right, so I'll try to just tell you the page number that we're on. It'll on the screens have a snippet from the budget book itself, and then I'll go over kind of the highlights for each of the departments. Starting in the expenditures with the First Selectmen's Department on page 3. So I also have at the top here the overall increase, which is budget to adopted budget, and in parentheses, a budget to the revised budget of FY23, which kind of shakes out some of the mid-year personnel changes that have taken place within 23. So for the First Selectmen's budget, it's up 1.64%. And that's due mainly to the professional service and research planning line. It's an increase of 2.5K. And this line is used for the transcription services, two in the prior year for the WPCA and more expected in the upcoming year. The next is for the meals and events line, which is an increase in 2,000. This brings it closer to what the actuals have been for the past few years. This is the line that's really used for employee recognition events or retirements, as well as the two major employee events for the year, the Christmas party and the food truck event, I believe. Any questions on the First Selectmen's budgets? Okay, on to the finance department. The finance is going up 9.71%.
So what page are we on here?
We are on page 3 still, I believe.
Okay.
So it's an increase of 9.7%, or versus the revised, it's an increase of 3.9%. The full-time salary line is going up 11%, which is the addition of the grant writer position, which is a new position. And with that in mind, the full-time salary line with that position versus the revised budget would only be an increase of 1.96%. Salary part-time is up 25%, which is the addition. Actually, let me just check that number. Yeah, it is 25%. It's the addition of the associate of risk management as a part-time position.
So that's the 12,000,
That is
So-
12,000, yeah.
big percent, small number. Okay.
An increase of 6% in the service contracts line. That's an increase due to the Munis software that we're using. We had just upgraded in December, and these are just kind of their increasing costs that get passed along to us. And a 4.8% increase of our professional service audit line. This is due to expected rate increases from our auditors relating to their staffing costs. Any questions on the finance departments?
Yeah, just a quick question, Josh, which, maybe this is a larger question since most departments struggle a little bit with staffing, but I just wonder in terms of salary and compensation, how resilient do you feel the finance group is? In other words, if you had somebody go out on a medical leave or somebody gets poached from a neighboring town, and all of a sudden, we've seen sort of the ripple effects of that in terms of the timing of the audit and whatnot, change over, then you got to train the new people. I'm just wondering how resilient you think you are or are placed in order to deal with those situations and still meet the needs of the town on the finance group.
So I think you really only need to look back under a year. We lost four out of six people, and we kind of kept it together. No, during that time, there was a lot of cross training, a lot of people learning other people's responsibilities and kind of holding their own in those positions. And I think it's.
Well, that's why I ask, in other words, of course, we appreciate the unbelievable effort, of course, and all that. It just, in a budget that the size that we have for this town, I'm not sure that we necessarily take comfort in watching the finance team, cross the finish line, huffing and puffing and just barely making it, if you know what I mean. In other words,
Well said.
about resiliency and all that. That's all.
I'll add to what Josh had said. Some of the changes that are undergoing right now with Jen brought up about the software program for the permitting. That's going to have a huge effect on us because of the manual labor we do to book revenues, because the systems aren't speaking to each other. So we're currently in the next year, we have a lot of changes, and they're actually pretty exciting for us. Park and Recs is going to a new program that we've tested. Works with our software system. So that has been, as Josh can attest to, what it's like to try and book.
It's very cumbersome and very manual right now. And
Very,
so
very
every department that is willing to sign on to any of these online or automated things that have an export towards finance that they really focus on, it makes our lives so much easier.
We should move that from willingness to need to.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no, it
Right.
definitely is a need to, because that was
Yeah.
part of our struggle with the changeover in staff. It was the manual work and those little things you had to know to fix it, to get it
The
into the
quirks, yeah.
system. Right. So, and the staff we have, I have to say, my staff in the finance office is great. We have a great staff, and everybody's willing to jump in. So we're going to do a lot of cross training. We've already started with our systems, which we're then going to roll out to the rest of the departments throughout town. So the goal is that if, God forbid, we're in this situation again, we have the systems in place to pick up that manual slack, get rid of it. So now it's just, what are our procedures? So that we follow versus the process of getting the work in.
Any other questions on finance? Okay. So on to the tax assessor. So it's a small increase, 3.79%, which really translates to just under $13,000. I guess the main highlight is their service contracts line, which is an addition of 4.9 thousand for the QDS cloud that they're signing on to. That takes a little bit of responsibility off of our IT departments. as well as I think gives them a little bit more functionality in terms of how they can access data. And that's 4.9 thousand, not divided, but for each, the collector and the assessor's department. The outside contract service, office equipment lease and rental, sorry, and advertising, all those lines are increasing due to the townwide reval that's happening. So those are just, small office increases, office expenses. And there's also a 401A employer contribution increase of 4.1 thousand, which is just increasing to reflect what the current actuals have been.
Yeah.
Any questions on the assessor?
There's more broadly, the 401A, is that a portion of what people voluntarily contribute?
Yeah,
And
it's the matching.
and what is the matching? I mean, I don't want to, if it's too complicated, but
It
is it?
matches up to 5 or 6.
Seven.
Seven?
Well, it's 7 and 6, I think, for town hall unioners.
Depending on the.
So it matches the first 7% that people defer. Got it. Thank you.
So it's 6 and 7
I think
for
it's 6 and
management.
7.
and
It might be 6 and 5, but
Is it?
or 7 and 5.
I thought
Definitely 7.
I guess 7.
it's 7 and 7 or 6?
It might be 7 and 6.
Isn't it? For management versus
No,
Union or-
non-union.
union and non, it's what I meant, yeah.
On to the collector, which is up 4.8%, also about $12,000, mainly due to the increase of their service contracts for QDS Cloud. There is also a salaries part-time increase of 13%, which represents a $1 an hour increase to the part-timer salary, which hasn't gotten an increase in quite a while. There's also a 13% increase in postage, which is just due to increased postage cost, which also just kind of goes along with what their actuals have been. Any questions on collector?
It's such a small number, but
Yeah.
just so we're gonna be able to like minimize postage as we go online. I know I got my bills.
There's, the statute requires.
Just
to
post it,
send a
okay.
bill. Yeah, so. Even though it says if you don't get a bill, you're still required, it's a 12-130 or something says, even if you don't get a bill,
gotta do
you
it,
have to pay it, but we still have to show the effort of
Got it.
sending it out.
That's fine.
That's a statute. That'd be great if we could change it. Get the savings.
On to legal, and we're on page 5 now. Legal is up 60%, but it's up to 400,000, which is around what we normally had budgeted for. It's usually around 300, 350. We're expecting a charter revision to be taking place next year, so that had us bump it up from 350 to 400. And we expect this to be just more in line with what the anticipated costs are, since we're running, I think, slightly over budget for this year.
Josh, does that cover costs for the affordable housing applications that have been filed?
It does.
Okay. Now, if there's litigation, that would be in addition, I assume, litigation wouldn't be covered by a fixed amount, would it?
Well, think about what the
Same, yeah,
litigation,
yeah.
just to maybe, I believe, and I'm not by far the expert on this, but my preliminary conversations have been that the recourse for an applicant, as if they want to appeal, is it goes to a judge and there's a hearing some period of time down the road. And so just understand that process is sort of a rote appeal process for a town action. Right, so there'll be an appeal for the 751 Weed Street. It's public. It'll be in the end of March, and so there'll be some time spent to prepare, our side of that story as that appeal happens. Not disclosing anything. If there's an appeal on any other decision that gets made, then it would be the same thing. But it would be an appeal 6 to 9 months from now. So when you say the town gets sued, I don't know that the town gets sued as much as the applicant or the plaintiff could appeal the finding.
Okay, that's helpful, Todd, because litigation can be, open the floodgates, but that's helpful. You put it in context.
Sure.
Let me just make a comment. When I took office 5 years ago, we were at 355 a year for our budget. We dropped down to 250 for the last 2 years. And obviously we didn't anticipate 830Gs coming online. So obviously that changed the picture. Plus the charter revision will, be $30,000 or $50,000 legal fee. So we're going back up to 400 because of charter revision.
You know, it is what it is
Yeah.
in the first selectman's budget, the legal budget. I mean, there's only so much you can plan or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of that's land
it's-
use, most of that's
yeah,
P and Z,
exactly,
P
or
and Z.
six,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions on legal? On to the HR department. HR is going up 2.47%. Just small increases in training tuition reimbursement. 2 employees are going for their advanced degrees, so this helps in that. Training is up 1,000, which just brings it closer in line with the past year's increases. Program meeting expense is up 700. This line is used to support events like the blood drive, Healthy Hearts, and stress in the workplace. Any questions on the HR departments? On to the IT departments. So IT is up 8.28%, or versus the revised, it's 4.7%. Salaries full-time is up 4.9%. Budget to revised budget, this would be 2.6%. This is due to Sal DeLucia's promotion to IT project manager, as well as a new hire during this past year. The service contract line is up 7,000, which is an increase of 5,000 due to Zoom costs that they're now absorbing, and 2,000 increases due to their existing contracts that are still ongoing. Any questions for?
What we don't really talk about on this page is what the product, we talk about the product with the school, we talk about the product with the library. We don't talk about the product here. And let me tell you, that is for that amount of money, what is done here for all the employees, including interfaces with the school, cyber, and everything that happens.
Amazing.
That's actually, in my opinion, very well run and not a unreasonable amount of money for all that happens there. So.
Agreed.
No, I think it's well done. I mean, they've gotten it right.
Knock on wood.
No, I mean, yeah, you know, it's one of the things you can, not worry about.
Any other questions on IT? On to the town clerk. The town clerk is up 4.5%. There is an increase in salaries full-time by 27%. This is an addition of a new full-time position, which is a $30,000 increase of the $30,000 net increase of the items below. This is dissolving 2 part-time positions and creating 1 full-time position. So there's a salary part-time line decreasing by 38,000, a salary OT line decreasing 4,000, professional services line decreasing 4.5 thousand to bring it in line with what the actuals have been. Office equipment and lease rentals decreasing 1.7 thousand, reflecting historical actuals, and salaries supplies office. That's dropping 11,000 due to the registrar taking the budget for ballots for in-person voting, not mail-in ballots. This is not really a decrease. It's just an increase on the registrar side with decrease on this side.
Okay.
Any questions on the clerks?
Why are the 2 percentages, 4.53 and
The
2.?
2 is versus the revised budget.
Okay.
Of last year. Okay. On to the registrar of voters. So their salaries part-time line is going up 14,000. Fiscal year 23 represented 6 months of their increased salary. Fiscal year 24 represents the full 12 months of the salary. So that's what's represented in that 14,000. Their canvassing line is down 6.5 thousand, adjusted down to reflect historic trends. Postage is up 2,000, adjusted up to reflect the historic trends and increase in postage costs. And there again, supplies office line is taking over those in-person ballots. Full ballots, yeah, that's a point. Any questions on the registrar?
Yeah, Josh, what is canvassing? What does the canvassing represent?
I think that going out to get people to register to vote?
No, they sent out a confirmation that you are still in town.
Yeah, to be sure you actually are.
And if you don't reply, they put you on an inactive list and they can ultimately remove you from the list if you don't.
Gotcha.
So
So that gets done once every whenever. and Doesn't need to be redone, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not done all the time.
Pretty frequent.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. On to land use. So land use is up 2.86%, and this is on page 8. Their salaries part-time is increasing 15,000, which is paying for the code enforcement officer. And their professional service line is increasing 25,000 to make budget available for the upcoming POCD that's taking place. Any questions on the land use?
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
right? I don't know that,
Yeah.
I don't know that they have addressed the questions we asked them. Or is that would be for Tiger and Maria?
So, sorry, they had the money, they had $25,000 in their budget for the sewer study. We brought that over to the engineering budget.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in our budget there for the sewer study that you were looking for. This 25,000 is for the increased effort going forward with the POCD. The commission is looking for 2 consultants, hiring Glenn Calder, who has done our past 2 POCDs, and then looking for some additional help. Specifically since Glenn is looking to retire shortly, so we'd like to start to pass the mantle. So they're looking for some additional funds to help with that.
Okay.
That's the reason for the difference in cost, but we have your request from last week covered in our engineering budget.
Okay.
And where is that?
Yeah,
In where?
You know, when we go to Tiger.
When we go to DPW,
Okay,
We
all
won't get
right,
there yet.
sorry. Go ahead. So it's not, okay.
Can someone remind me that the salaries in for land use, just interested, it caught my eye. They were higher in 2020 than they are in recommended for 2024. There was like a million back in 2020. Now do we change the staffing there?
I don't think so.
I'm just
Well,
looking
it was a big drop from 20 to
Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was that? Why was that?
What's-
Why was that?
That's more the question.
Maybe.
and then it jumped up again and
So was,
I'm just,
so
22.
land use staffing is on page 44,
yeah,
which
thanks.
I don't know if it goes back to 1. But
COVID had an impact on.
Yeah, that's what I was
do
thinking.
we have a
Same thing.
retirement or something or?
Not in land use.
Or did something with COVID, people did something.
That's so strange.
It's a good question.
I don't know what happened between 20 and 21. I
We'll get
can
that
look into
answer.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Yeah,
Big drop.
we don't generally see it go that way.
No, not,
So-
not.
So this number though is still not at that level.
Yeah, because even if you had the part-time in, you know.
was that when health department was split off?
That might have been.
Oh.
That would
Oh,
make
it
sense.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was?
This health department's not in there.
Yeah, because that was 0 and up to 363 the next year. It's not very likely.
So yeah, I think that was right around that time.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks, Tiger.
We just need Tiger. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on land use?
Yeah, I had one. So I see that the gasoline, oil is going up by about 10%, and it's pretty consistent across all the different categories, and also electricity, fuel oil, propane. Tiger, what's the thinking behind there? How did you get to the 10% assumption?
That's it's an excellent question. Thank you. We put in a marker across the board for every department for our utilities at 10%. Given the fact that we don't know where we're going to be going forward, we took a hit this year. First year we bought off the rack for gasoline, diesel, and heating oil. Most times we've had contracts moving forward. This is the first year we didn't, based upon our consultants' recommendations to buy off the rack. So then we left going forward, since we don't have a contract to move forward, because normally we're usually bought out a year in advance, so we already know the number. We put in a marker of 10% to signal to the Board of Finance, specifically for you to ask this question. It's just a marker. Looking at our electricity at present, our electricity is good through the end of 2023, but we just got very favorable numbers to carry that for the next 2 years. So we'll look to the Board of Finance for some guidance when I meet with you next week. Similarly, same thing for the gas and oil. It's strictly a 10% marker that we put in.
That's probably right. Who knows?
Okay, moving on to health, pension and OPEB and insurance. So, yeah, as to what Larry had said, like he said, we're keeping the contribution to town benefits fund flat as of right now. Town pension contribution is up around 100,000 to reflect the recent recalculation as of a month ago or so.
Yes, we have current numbers that will be worked on right now on that one.
The OPEB gas B45 is an increase of 300,000 due to the current state of the trust in regards to the recent market conditions. And that was 300,000 from nothing last year. And the 401A Board of Ed contribution is, there is currently a placeholder of, what is it? Of 150,000, but I think that's really going to come out to closer to 170,000. We're just kind of getting that number right before we make any changes.
So back to the maybe you're going to go there, the pension contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just finished up with a study. We're going to meet with Hooker and Holcomb and the Hooker and Holcomb as the actuarial that did it. And they undertook a study. So based on various discount rates that they're suggesting, there are some significant savings on the level that based on the rate. So it ranges anywhere from $1 million going down to about 400,000. And then if the rate goes to about, I think 6, it goes where it's actually an additional cost. So the RPAC and this board have been interested in reducing the discount rates in the past. So it's deciding now, do we want to do it because we have these level of savings?
So I think the question is this: if we leave the discount rate where it is, which I think from a few months ago we got comfortable with, maybe not 6 months ago, but now we feel like that discount rate wasn't a bad number. The recommendation would be to put 186,000 into the fund, not 1.2 million, correct? Okay, so that is a very serious conversation to have, because that is a potential $1 million, another $1 million of savings on the cost line. So, and if we want to go to 6.5, that's a conversation we could have. That would be a $500,000 cost versus the 1.2 million. And that would mean reducing the discount rate even to be more conservative. So anyway, we don't have to decide any of that tonight, but just so everybody knows, there's another potential $1 million on the table of avoided costs if we just keep the discount rate where it is, which we'll talk about. Excellent. That's really
It's probably worth noting, Todd, that the RPAC hasn't seen the Hooker analysis yet. We're scheduled to meet on the 28th to talk about it, but
I know
none of us on the RPAC have seen that yet.
Yeah, I'm a little out of school, but it's $1 million and it just broke news, so I thought I'd share it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Any other questions on these three? To parking. Parking is increasing 1.59%. Due to there's an increase of 7,000 to the salaries overtime line. Basically, so the coverage during normal business hours. Right now, there are 2 parking officers from the original, I think 4. And in order to really have proper coverage during those business hours, you really need those 2. And so right now, they're taking off one of the parking officers to work on Saturdays so that they're down to 1 during normal operating hours. So this overtime would facilitate having the 2 parking officers full-time and then 1 on Saturdays as well. So not reducing kind of the workforce during those prime hours.
But that's in lieu of a third person.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a ton, I think that makes a ton of sense if they're willing to do that. It works out. Assuming that they have enough people to do the job. I mean, that's always the issue. We'll see. It'll roll out, but
The outside contract services line is down 14,000. This is an expense that coincides with how many parking tickets the town is issuing. So ticketing has been trending downwards. So this is being lowered to correspond with that.
That's not because we don't have staff to issue tickets. That's because of the whole,
Violations
yeah,
of-
that's what I thought. All right, just to be clear. Yeah,
It's because of the whole.
yeah, the whole parking and the COVID and
Right,
the
okay, reduction in-
reduced,
reduction in-
not because,
I was just gonna.
not
I was
because of
when you-
personnel.
I
I'm
was going
sorry.
through Remaining clause. so-
Yeah, okay, it's all right.
Had more time.
Yeah.
We're getting tickets because they went past their 2 hours after they paid. Now they can add more time. People are using it, so.
Yep.
You're not seeing as many violations.
Any other questions on parking? On to debt service, contingency and transfers. So debt service is remaining flat over last year. I think Anne can probably speak to that.
So in fiscal year,
It's page 21 in the
Sorry,
book.
I should have followed my.
Yeah, you got the sheet and it's accurate. It's one typo, but it's accurate.
Brilliant.
is there a typo?
There is.
Brutal tax.
It's okay.
So in fiscal year 23, we had planned on bonding earlier. But that didn't happen. We're doing it probably later, probably April or so. So the amounts that will affect in bonding April of this year, it actually affects the 24 budget, not the 23. So the numbers built in for the 23 budget for a bonding of just the interest, because by the timing it would have been just interest only, not principal. That's enough right now that was built in for the bonding we're looking to do right now. So we're keeping it flat because there is also a slight drop off for the actual tax, but the actual payments that we're making right now, they're actually coming down slightly. And on top of what we had budgeted from last year, that's the premise of keeping it flat. And this is for a bonding of about, right now, we're looking at possibly 5 million. We're truing that up with bond counsel and, excuse me, our financial advisor probably next week sometime.
To go out.
For, projects.
When?
We'll
Spring?
probably close in April.
Okay,
We're gonna go
yeah,
out,
alright.
March into April.
Mm.
We've certain things that we have timelines that have to be bonded by 18 months. So,
Yeah,
we have to keep on top of, that. But also be cognizant of the fact that we're going to, with some of the projects right now, 220 Elm, things like that. They need to be done by a certain time period, which we know that money done or needed and in and done by August. So we're looking at what ones do we actually need to do because of the 18 months deadline, or what do we need from, just make sure our cash flow is okay.
So on to contingency. Contingency just has a flat 300,000. That's traditional. Volunteer tax abatements left flat, and the salary contingency contains both the negotiations for town hall unions bargaining agreement that's going to be taking place, as well as the COLA increases for non-unioners at the town hall. Interfund transfers, this really only houses the tax supported capital line, which is currently at 2 million. But you'll kind of see those as presented throughout the rest of the department reviews. But this is up. It's up 780%. But
Isn't that the deferred bond premium?
Yes, we used that last year.
Yeah.
We used the deferred bond.
But we don't have much premium to use this year.
Right.
But you could defer some of those expenses to bonding.
any questions on those three?
refresh my memory. Why did we have such a high deferred bond last year? What was that? I
There was,
I can't
20
remember.
we had a balance in there prior, but then we also bonded 25 million,
Yeah,
December of 21. So that
Okay.
added to the premium to bring it up to close to just over 3 million. So
Oh.
some of it had been brought down for of the balance, I think the year before, if I remember, there was some items brought down. And then last year, we wiped out the tax supported capital by authorizing them as bonded as projects so that we could use the premium. Some of the premium that we had, it was past the timeline that you could actually use it to pay down debt and interest, things like that, that you had to put it to another
yeah.
authorized project. We had no other option but. to
And that
use it
was
for
the 18 months. Or that was beyond?
Because of the premium could be put against, oh, don't quote me now, but you may know better than me, Amy. The interest can only be put from the certain point of when, the premium can only put against interest and payments. At the point of when you bond, you have, I don't know, it's a year to 2 years that you have to use that premium.
Okay.
After that, it becomes technically
It-
stale to
yeah.
put it to that purpose. Then you would take it and you would have to put it against an authorized project, an actual project than that. And we don't normally authorize our tax supported. They were all authorized last year.
And how much was that?
2 million? Was it close to 2 million? I can't remember offhand.
I think it was. It must have been close to 1.5.
That's-
And then did we bring some in to pay down from the debt service
Yeah.
too? So it was combined. It was to pay off the tax supported and bring in to offset debt. It was over 2 million
It
combined.
was. Okay, well, it is what it is.
Any questions on these two?
Yeah, I have a question, and I'm looking on page 119 in the book, and it's showing that our debt service as a percent of general fund expense budget was targeted at around 11%, but we're forecasting that we're gonna go above the target, and I'm just wondering, is the target too low? Or why are we going or exceeding the target?
So with these schedules, and this is Tiger and I have been working on this, Tiger's been great on it. What these schedules relate to the authorization factor. So if we authorize $20 million in a year, that's what these schedules are showing. That's not what we bond. So we really have to put two schedules together. That's what we're working on. Here's what the authorizations of what they want over the next 5 years from an authorization standpoint for projects. But here's the actual cash flow of those projects. This is the authorization, so it's pushing it up over what we're actually bonding. So we're looking at how to actually change these in the future so we can show it 2 different ways.
Actual debt outstanding as opposed to debt authorized.
And debt. I can't say the word, I'm so tired. It's like
10 o'clock at night. It's okay.
No, that makes sense.
The debt that we
Yeah.
want, so, you know, so let's say the police station would be a prime example. So we may.
Yeah, but you're only
20 million in the year or to whatever it is,
Mhm.
but that's gonna be stretched over 3 years.
Exactly.
That's exactly,
Yeah.
so that's the number that
Debt,
will
debt
bring it under that.
actually issued,
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah,
issued, not authorized,
exactly.
debt outstanding.
So we
Yeah.
technically are not over the threshold from the debt levels that we currently have.
Okay.
Victor, I'd also add that the charts in there reflect the 5-year plan, the capital plan from last year, from FY 23, and haven't been updated yet with what's been passed for FY 24.
Which is gonna be even higher.
Well, we want to work to try and get the one that where we think, based on that 5-year plan, when do we think we're gonna incur the debt itself in the budgets?
Yeah,
So
because
that-
we roll off a lot of principal every year.
Right,
So
right,
you
we
just.
have a lot coming off the next
Yeah.
3 years.
That's it. That's the most important part of the story.
That's what we.
And the biggest thing is because
Done well.
we do for the long project, 20-year debt service with level principals. So you're paying off 70% of your debt within 10 years. That's basically the ratio, how it works. It's just a, it's just a, ru-
On a
But I think,
20-year.
uh,
bond.
on a
Yeah,
20
on
year,
a
just,
20
it's just a
year, yeah.
rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Because we have the level principal.
Right.
If you had level debt service, it'd be different. But we have level principal, so
Principals are
really
really-
quickly, your interest expense drops.
Very good, yeah.
Victor, aren't you questioning the debt service, the guideline? Is that what you're questioning?
Yeah, I just thought if we're going above the target in the chart, and I'm wondering, is that something that we should be concerned about, or is the target too low?
There's an answer to
Yeah.
that. So,
She just answered.
yeah, sorry. So the original, this goes back to the debt service, management guidelines, and we had set an 11% target for 3 years ahead, then went down to 10. And this is the year when it was going to go down to 10. And when we met earlier this year,
December.
one of the recommendations we were going to make was to leave the 11% guideline as it is and not go down to 10, knowing that we had all these projects coming up in the next few years. And so this goes to Josh's point that these charts haven't been updated because we haven't really adopted the policy change that was recommended
Yeah,
by
we
the.
talked
Yeah,
about
but
it. We
what
talked
Ann was
about
saying,
it.
that's not really why the charts are wrong. The charts are wrong because it's saying everything that's authorized, not issued.
They're just different.
They're
not-
yeah.
They're different.
They're,
We'll
they're,
clean them up.
Yeah.
We'll clean them up.
We'll do it, we do it.
Well, this is especially true on forecast,
Yeah.
but when we work with the forecast, and doing with the calculation that Amy brought up, we came to the conclusion that we should not ratchet it down to 10 and keep it at 11. So you've got a couple of adjustments that need to be made there to make all these things mesh properly. So that's the answer, Victor. It's a couple of things.
But when we talked about this, we agreed to come back and do it again. In other words, have a policy. When are we?
Well, we
doing-
made the recommendation.
Yeah, well,
and
but the
at some-
recommendation was to be rediscussed as per a policy. I don't know when you planned on doing that, if you had a plan, but I thought we were gonna talk about it again.
Well, I guess
think
we
we're
are.
good.
Yeah,
so let's, we're not gonna do it
Yeah.
tonight.
No,
We talked about it in December. We decided not to change the policy.
Yeah.
The chart is not exactly synced up with actual debt. That's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is, but it does give a false sense on one of those metrics. So we probably do need to clean that up. Okay.
So we don't, that somebody doesn't think we don't have a policy here.
Now,
Yeah.
the rating agency.
That's right.
They really they love the fact that you have a debt policy.
Yeah.
They cite it in every report.
Yeah.
And they love a long-term capital plan, so they love what we do.
Well, then.
But I would imagine when we do the capital budget, at some point we'll take up this recommendation
Exactly.
from
Yeah.
That's exactly what it
that
is.
management committee.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
okay.
Keep going. Revenues.
On to revenues, page 22.
Revenues are good.
Oh, it's
So
fine.
on to the, hopefully, on to the finance department. The finance department is up 46%. And the two main drivers of that are the interest on investments projecting up 400,000 from what was budgeted. So that's putting it at 900,000. As well as the rental of property under finance is up 180,000, putting it at 380,000. And this is due to the addition of the Board of Ed. Paying not their lease, but their contracts. as well.
To get our 900,000, I mean, obviously, we don't know where rates are gonna be over the next, and this is June to June 24, so. But what was our assumption for rate? And I mean, this is, if you use 4%, this is $22.5 million balance at 4%. Like, how did we, seems a little conservative to me, but again, who knows where we're gonna be?
On the first line, the interest.
Well, yeah, the 900,000.
But this is in conjunction with talking with the treasurer and what he feels
Right.
where the
Is that what he-
investments are. Yeah, we have about 10 million in like fixed income CDs and things like that in Janney and UBS. We have 10 million in an ICS, which is the mechanism that goes out for CDs, or IC.
Right.
It's
Okay.
FDIC insured, and then.
So you went bucket by bucket.
Yeah,
and
bucket
that's
by
where
bucket, and
it
then
kinda
the
came up.
remainder right now is sitting in it, collateralized money
Right.
market at about 4%.
It's hard to know, but I think we'll be higher than that.
Could be,
He-
but
he's
this is the number he
sandbagging.
felt comfortable. He
Yep.
did increase it from the point of original, and then he did put it up again. But
Okay.
Probably for February, it's okay, right?
Fine.
We'll
Yeah.
tighten it up a little bit, probably
Yeah,
a
as we
little bit.
go
In May, we'll know a little bit better.
where
Yeah.
things are gonna go.
Yeah. Okay.
And cash flow needs as well, to where to keep it liquid
Yep.
versus
Yep.
go a couple months.
On to the tax assessor, that is down 25%. It's due to the state property rebate. That is not an actual number. I guess it wouldn't be an actual number, but we were using the past 5-year actuals as a guide for this. Even though I guess if you're looking at the past 3 years here, it looks much higher. That I think is actually going to come down to be a little bit lower, closer to 2550. And according to the assessor, he's very conservative when budgeting for this because it's one of those things that you just don't know when it totally disappear or when it could come in much lower than budgeted.
But a low number either way. So it seems like a big change, but the
It's-
implications
yeah.
are not a lot.
Right.
Right.
On to the tax collector, that's, everything's pretty much standard and the, tax collections current is really just a moving target that just moves along with the budget. Parking is really the only other one here, which is parking permits is up 20,000 due to the potential of 480 deferred permits being reinstated. And parking meters is up 20,000, which is just closer with the historical data and how that's been trending lately.
And again, just on the tax collections, am I correct in just saying that that's you built this bottom up with expenses being something.
Yeah.
And therefore you're short and that you had to fill it in with tax
It's
increase.
the plug number, yeah.
If it's a plug number,
Yeah.
if we reduce expenses like we've just talked about tonight, that number comes down dollar for dollar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay. Good.
Any questions?
And were
on-
are
Oh.
the permits increased, or are we giving more options for different fees for how many days of the week, or is it back to the full schedule of the full parking? Okay, I'm just curious if that was revised. Yeah, oh, I know that, but I mean, if you're buying a parking ticket, it's a full time. Okay, I wasn't sure if we were gonna do that.
Anything new from the train spur?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
We may have to take that into account. We were just notified, not by anybody from the state.
There was a Facebook post.
No, it's confirmed by Tom O'Day.
Oh,
Okay.
and what is it?
They're shutting down the entire branch line from entire New Canaan branch line from Memorial Day to Labor Day to do major repair.
From Stamford?
Oh.
So the entire spur is,
Entire
say again, from when to when? From when to when?
Memorial Day to Labor Day.
School's out for summer.
Okay. School's
So,
out
but
for
but
summer.
that's none, I've looked at, nothing's on the MTA website on that.
Conductors announced it last night on the train.
Ah.
On the train at Darien.
You know,
Tom O'Day.
They're apparently building this new station in Stamford, Glendale to Stanford. So
What are they gonna do? Yeah.
they're gonna take it offline to build this.
Okay,
So-
so that's actually
so-
shorter than I thought it was gonna be. That isn't the, yeah.
Well, that's what they say.
I've left, fair enough. No, fair enough.
I mean,
Point is,
You're gonna put your
guys
money
have been
on that?
going on Darien.
the residents.
Yeah.
Go to your beach house,
It's
son.
intentional and it's for grades and repairs, and the station
Another good
is
reason.
not permanent. I mean, just so it's
Funds
clear.
will be available.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's
We're also
clear.
looking at any other options that we can do for.
Okay, all right. Well,
Because it
again, we may need to
matters, yeah.
revisit that number on
Yeah, It
parking.
matters.
Um,
right.
For sure.
Do you know, and this is, I mean, did they say when they do these repairs, if they're gonna be able to speed it up? Because what happened is that spur slowed down dramatically. Do you have any idea of that? Because,
No, this is building a new station, so it's not
not the track.
not the track. The track work is gonna be done on the main line. That's gonna, the branch line is not gonna be improved speed. It's gonna be the main line.
75.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
exactly.
it
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Slower than,
70,
slower than.
75.
No, it's a new
when I was in
station
grade
between
That's ridiculous.
Glenbrook and.
So
Oh,
keep
really?
going.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Good.
On to.
Can I mention one thing? Just,
Yeah.
so you mentioned the 8.91, which is really a plug figure based upon the
Revenues, or excuse me, the expenses.
the expenses.
Yes.
So when we issued our Board of Selectmen budget,
Yeah.
we actually said 6%, but we picked up the number that would have been, but the assumption for the Board of Ed and the assumption for the Board of ISF, their actuals came in, which pushed it to 8.91. So 6% is a good goal for you to get back down to, but it's not, it's 8.91 is the current.
We're gonna try to do better.
We're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
So like 9 million as opposed to 13. Right?
One,
Where are we?
one-
Just
You got 13 million.
help me out. I
By
think I
taxes.
lost you. 9 million versus,
Right, you're talking about the tax line, right?
yeah, tax line.
Oh, thank you.
That's not the page. That's this one, right?
Right.
The 12 million.
Yeah,
right?
the 12 million.
Which is
Yeah.
891.
Right.
So if you want us down to
Nine.
6%, that's gonna be like around $9 million.
Right, right.
All right. Well, we've gotten a few.
Oh, this.
Yeah, we have some chunks to work with. Okay, let's keep going.
On to the town clerk's department.
Thanks for the guidance.
Really big.
What else noticed?
Town clerk is.
Okay, got it. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is,
I was watching it this time.
conveyance fees are down 500,000 to 1.5 million. We think that's just where it's trending now, and it's kind of a conservative figure. Right now, I think we're at about 1 million for year to date, maybe a little bit higher than that. And last year, of course, was 2.3 million, but before 2020, it was really hovering around 1.1, 2, 3 million. So this kind of brings it closer to that.
And the issue there being
Yeah.
not house prices,
Yeah,
but
but the-
number of sales,
Yeah.
because the demand's there, but the inventory's not.
Especially
That-
high, especially
Is that the
high,
answer?
high-end
Yeah.
sales are higher percentage.
So the number of sales
Yeah.
will impact this. Okay. Okay.
On to land use. Land use is pretty much flat.
We did land use. didn't we?
Revenue,
Oh, revenue, sorry. Peace,
It's late.
peace.
pretty much flat.
It's okay. It's late.
On to capital projects, unless anyone has any questions on revenue. So there aren't that many capital projects, of course. Tax assessor has
Well, are we
the,
still on 27?
oh,
So
so,
did we go to, it's so hard.
so
to follow.
capital is 128.
Oh, no wonder.
It's actually very easy. to follow.
I'm gonna
Good
work, I know, but I'm gonna get, I can't deal with this.
Let's do the paper thing.
Yeah.
Much faster. Okay, 128.
128. So the tax assessor has the 2023 townwide reval, which was broken up originally to 150,000 and 150,000 over FY 23 and 24. There was an increase in the expected cost of the overall project since it's a full townwide reval. So this is now up to 215,000 to cover kind of the overall cost, the new expected cost. For the IT department, they have their recurring annual capital expenses, which is IT hardware software, which is usually 80,000. This year it's at 130,000 due to them needing to purchase Microsoft licenses, which is just a requirement that they I think had forced upon them this year. So that's why it has a 1-year bump to 130, but then goes back down to the traditional at 80,000. Their WAN hardware software is again recurring 80,000. And a new line of cybersecurity mitigation for 40,000, which ties into our ability to get insurance coverage. Just have a new requirement that just part of it. And that's it. Unless there's any questions on this.
When's the impact of the reval then for next year?
25.
They will come out in, when do they come out? December or January with notices to people, and then they can appeal them?
July 25.
So January, you get a notice.
Yeah.
Of 24, no, yes, 24
yeah.
Yeah, the fiscal year 25 budget.
for the fiscal 25 year budget.
Next
Okay,
year's budget will have a
all right.
new reval.
And we're using 1 in point something percent for the grand list
For this year.
for this year,
1.13.
1.13. Okay,
Instead, we expected 0.5%, so that's doing well.
correct. Okay.
Well, the grand, yeah, but the grand list increases from year to year are real numbers that get added. That's real estate added to the total.
Sure.
The revaluation of the assessments, all that says is that it doesn't change.
It's just a reallocate, it's a reallocation.
I know,
Who pays for it?
I know. Oh, I know.
I
know.
Well, mill rate will definitely go down.
I've seen the movie now.
Yeah,
Right,
to be raised by taxation,
movie.
and it always is. The mill rate is just.
All right.
Are we
Here's-
doing, are we doing any?
We're done. I just want to make just a quick summary of what I heard.
Yeah.
I think we have again, and we've got work to do. But I heard 1.2 million potentially leveraging the ISF for expense from the town. You shaking your head?
No, that's
You're good? I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying that's on the table that we need to follow up on. We think that is a savings between the $1.4 million stop loss and the $2.1 million forecast that the Board of Ed got. That's $700,000. Maybe that's 50% too high. So there could be $400,000 or $500,000 potentially there. The pension cost, if we leave the discount rate the same, has $1 million in it as well. As you know, we'd asked the Board of Ed to find $1 million. They heard that. And so they know what we're asking for. I don't know what they'll come back with. I hope that they would do that. So that was just where we are as of tonight.
We're getting there.
Of a couple of
We're
items. So
getting
Any questions? Great job. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you.
Yes, and I know, and you've done an amazing job in what you've done in a matter of a year is unbelievable.
Yeah, they've done a great job. Thank you so much.
Okay, if there are any other
The
questions,
cheat
motion
sheet
to
was
adjourn.
brilliant.
Motion to adjourn.
Otherwise, I'd spend the whole time.
Just want to stay here.
Chris, motion to adjourn. Chris, Maria, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. Thank you, Tiger.
We did it.